When the dawn of mana came, extraordinary abilities were bestowed on mankind. While the strong dominated, weaklings were suffering immensely. One of those weaklings is our hero, Lin Qiu, who awakened as a ridiculous rabbit. Lin Qiu was a runt who was on the brink of death until he unlocked a system that changed everything. He got new skills every day and was able to pay back those awful bullies who treated him like garbage. Regardless, all these things didn't happen in a day. It's a new era in Blue Star, and everyone in the city is going about their business. We see our hero shamelessly walking through the streets while being engrossed in his phone. He walks past a girl who is cosplaying as a bunny and streaming for her fans. He can't believe that someone would actually dress like that and be in public. It's just crazy. Anyway, he gets caught up in the live stream, and the viewers start to mock him for being pathetic. The bunny girl notices his presence and tells her viewers to shower her with gifts if she can bring him down. Before she can even get into it, the subscribers start giving her gifts. The bunny girl then approaches the protagonist and talks about how they both have similar bunny ears. While our hero is distracted by her alluring charms, she quickly casts a spell on him. Fear and confusion grip the protagonist as his body is lifted into the air. As he gets tossed to the ground, the bunny girl lets her viewers know that her mission is complete. After sustaining some injuries, Lin Qiu struggles to get to his feet. As if he hasn't suffered enough, he hears the honk of a vehicle, and a truck suddenly slams into him from nowhere. His body is sent flying through the air, while the driver of the truck curses him for being a disgusting creature. As our hero hurls through the air, he recalls how unfortunate his life has been. He grew up in an orphanage, and things continued to get worse once he awakened his bunny transformation. Those with stronger abilities stood at the top, and they mocked him for being a pathetic loser. Just as he crashes to the ground, the driver approaches him. Our hero lies in a pool of his own blood, and the crazy driver tells him to pay for the damages to his vehicle. With a seething rage, the guy activates his thunder abilities and zaps the protagonist, frying his brain in the process. As Lin Qiu suffers agonizing pain, he wonders if this is the end of the road for him. Suddenly, a strange being notices his will to survive. The being says that it has finally found a suitable host after millions of years. Meanwhile, our hero continues to get struck with thunder. When Lin Qiu opens his eyes, he finds himself in a very strange place. While he tries to make sense of all the text floating around, a robot speaks to him. A screen pops up in his face, and he has no idea what it is talking about. The loud voice of the robot scares our hero as it introduces itself as 9527. The robot system explains that our hero is the perfect host it has come across after searching for the past 35 million years. Lin Qiu is thrilled to know that he's still alive and proceeds to ask if he can get any of the skills he's currently looking at. After telling him not to get ahead of himself, the robot says that it can grant him one skill every day, but it'll be random. Upon hearing this, our hero's hope is shattered because he's once again left in the hands of fate. He finds out that he doesn't have enough energy to select a specific skill, and he wishes that the robot found him earlier. Not only that, but if the random skill ends up being as pathetic as him, he'll end up meeting his maker for real this time. After explaining these things, the robot asks if he's ready to awaken a skill. With no other choice, he decides to make use of his second chance at life. He accepts the conditions, and the system generates a random triple S rank skill for him. After that, the protagonist comes back to life in the spot where he was being electrocuted. While the driver is shocked to see that he's alive, Lin Qiu leaps into the air with his new skill that strengthens his legs. He lands on top of the truck, smashing the vehicle to smithereens. Angered by this, the driver rushes towards him to teach him a lesson. However, our hero strikes him down with a powerful kick and sends the guy crashing into the ground. Scared for her poor life, the bunny girl begs the protagonist to stay away from her. Our hero then enhances his fists with his skill and gets ready to send the girl to her maker. After dealing with her, he covers her up with his jacket. He then picks up her phone and sees her viewers calling him all sorts of names and warning him not to lay his filthy hands on her. He uses the opportunity to go on the live stream and tells everyone that he's the boss bunny henceforth. You'd think this guy would at least say something cool. The next day, in a classroom, a couple of girls are talking about how the protagonist showed up in the news. As they confirm that it's none other than their classmate, he walks into the class, wondering what all the fuss is about. The girls quickly gather around him and start asking if it was really him who they saw on the live stream. The protagonist then recalls how he was able to settle matters with the bunny girl and driver. For some reason, he got them to apologize. Not only that, but he also used his skills to make them praise him. Our boy must have been really desperate for that moment. After that, he accesses the system because he hasn't gotten any skill for the day. The robot skips the selection process and gives a skill known as sewing the world. Being a degenerate loser, the protagonist thinks this is finally his chance to score all the hot chicks on the block and make everyone else jealous. However, when he clicks on it, he doesn't see the desired effects he wants. The robot explains that the skill will enable him to plant all kinds of seeds, and they'll flourish under his care. So much for getting hot chicks. Thanks to getting such a useless skill, he starts cursing out the system, making others think that he has gone insane. Someone in the class then calls out to him. He turns to see that it's Li Nan, a prodigy who uses the wind element. The guy offers our hero a job and says that he can make a whole lot of money with it. Lin Q tells him to quickly spill the details so he can know if it's really worth it. At the same time, he doesn't know why this bully is suddenly being so kind to him. The dude tells him that the job is at a club that's looking for waiters, and he'll be able to fit right in with his good looks. The protagonist is short of words when he finds out that this guy is stupid enough to suggest that kind of club to him. He flips the table by saying that Li Nan must be a regular spender there, and the dude accepts without thinking about it. Seconds later, he realizes what just happened, but our hero continues to tease the guy about it. Li Nan slams the table out of anger and is ready to destroy our hero for making a fool out of him. However, the teacher comes in and warns the guy about the punishment he will face for fighting in school. With no other choice, he backs down but still keeps an eye on Lin Qiu. After that, the teacher tells them that those with awakened powers will have a special test to determine if they can get into Lingwu University. Upon hearing about Lingwu University, the protagonist becomes very interested in what the teacher is saying. When spiritual energy was restored in Blue Star, it founded Lingwu University, which is a place dedicated to training awakened individuals. Lin Qiu was nothing but a mediocre loser with pathetic abilities back then. But now, he wonders if he stands a chance to get into the school with the help of the system. He raises his hand to ask the teacher a question. However, the man tells him not to bother with the exam because he'll just end up embarrassing the school. Our hero is crushed under the weight of the teacher's words, and the whole class starts laughing at him. Regardless, he tells the teacher that he'll be taking the ability exam. The teacher remains adamant, telling him that he has average skills and he should just protect the school's reputation. This only makes Lin Qiu more angry, and he vows to beat up every single person that has looked down on him. The man offers to give him a shot at the ability exam if he can make it to the top 10 in the citywide exams. Our hero quickly accepts the deal, and his teacher can't wait to see what the results will be. With an unwavering determination, the protagonist swears to get into Lingwu University at all costs. As he rushes out of school, he thinks of how to save up for university fees because of how expensive they are. A car speeds into the vicinity and suddenly stops right in front of him. As the door opens and someone steps out, he wonders who the hell would be interrupting his day right now. Two girls step out of the car, and the blue-haired one refers to him as the bunny. The girl is known as Qin Zhenjin, and all the guys on the block can't believe how stunning she looks. Even our hero is starstruck when he sees the beauty before him. Lin Qiu then realizes that the girl called him a little bunny, and he wonders why all the women love to call him such an embarrassing name. He clears up his throat and introduces himself to Zhenzane in a flashy and stupid way. He also offers his contact information, but the blonde-haired girl ends up laughing at his silly theatrics. As she teases him, he realizes that she is the same bunny girl from the live stream. She tells him that she came to return his jacket and hands it over to him. After that, the girl says that cosplaying is her hobby, and he shouldn't talk about it, but he doesn't see the point, considering that she's famous. Zhen then interrupts them and asks the bunny girl, Chungmin, if our hero is the one she spoke about. Chungmin tells her that the protagonist was able to beat a bronze 2-star rank, meaning that his powers should be higher than 2 stars. Lin Qiu says that he can demonstrate his powers for them, just so he can show off. However, Zhen, who is also a high school goddess, tells him that there's no need since they are leaving. He suggests that they find somewhere to spar, and she wonders if this guy is being serious. Being a rank 1 silver star, she feels insulted by his challenge, and decides that they'll spar a week from that day. He even makes her more repulsed by his presence when he calls her name and asks if there will be a reward for the winner. Zhen then tells him that if he wins, she'll act more nicely to him and fulfill any other requests he has. Just before Ming leaves, she advises the protagonist to give up on the competition before he receives the beating of a lifetime. As they bid each other farewell, he assures her that he won't be giving up easily. When they leave, our hero gets on his scooter and suddenly receives a text message. The message is from a customer who is looking for urgent help, and Lin Qiu sees that he gets to set the price of this order. He quickly zooms off to help the client and also become rich in the process as well. In a dark alley beside an internet cafe, some thugs can be heard as they are harassing an innocent person. The poor victim is in tears and offers to give the thugs some money if they spare his life. We see that his name is Zhang San, and he is a 9-star rank bronze healer. The thugs jack him up and let him know that they are going to end his life after collecting all his pennies. Their attention turns to someone who calls out to them. They turn and see the protagonist holding a bat, and he's ready to make them pay for bullying an innocent guy. However, they pick up their own weapons, ready to teach our bunny boy a lesson. Regardless, our hero is unfazed by their threats. As he snaps his fingers, a ton of people appear behind him, ready to beat up the thugs causing trouble in their territory. As the thugs see that there's no way they can win this fight, they run away like wimps before they get sent 6 feet under the ground. The fatso then runs towards the protagonist and can't believe that he is the boss of the area. Now that he has backup, Zhang-san tells the thugs never to show up again or the hero will pummel them. After that, he thanks Lin Chu and refers to him as his big brother. But the protagonist just wants to be paid and not an annoying little brat. The boy properly introduces himself as the most handsome high school student in the city and offers the protagonist a payment of 30,000 yuan. Lin Kyo is amazed at how rich he has become from this one order. All he needs now is a little more money to cover his tuition fees and he is set. Seeing that he is now rich, the hero decides to call Zhang his junior. He then asks why the thugs were upset with him. Zhang explains that he used a female account in a game and the person he got married to asked him for a voice note. However, the person was sitting right across from him and caught him when he used a voice changer. Lin Kyo can't even believe how insane this guy is. The kid offers to give the protagonist a ride in a luxury car, but he declines the offer. On his way home, he thinks about how lucky he is to meet the high school goddess and make a lot of money on the same day. In school the next day, the lecturer tells all the students to settle down for class. Our hero is completely exhausted because he was studying all through the previous night. He tries to keep himself alert with a cup of coffee, but he might just pass out at any moment. He then asks the robot to give him his skill for the day. The robot complains about having its sleep interrupted, leaving the protagonist very amazed. Why the hell does a robot even need sleep? The plot armor finally kicks in, and the protagonist gets the photographic memory skill. It's the best thing he needs for the exam. As he decides to test out the skill, the lecturer notices that he is behaving strangely. Lin Kyo looks at the board and immediately gets the answer to the equation there. Seeing how easy it is to use the skill, he starts flipping through different books to gather as much knowledge as possible. While he is engrossed in the books, the teacher finally snaps and lashes out at him. The man slams the desk, causing our hero to jump straight up from his seat. He yells at Lin Chu for looking at a physics book when they are currently having a language class. He tries to explain what made him happy, but the man isn't having it. Eventually, the guy even starts shooting flames out of his mouth as he reminds the protagonist about his awful results. Seriously, this guy needs to take a chill pill. Lin Kyo suggests that the teacher should test him by asking a question from any page of the book, because he is confident in his memorization. Despite this, the lecturer still tells him to give up on the ability exam, but Lin Q tells the man to stop underestimating him. A serious tension rises in the class as the lecturer decides to start with an easy question. Our hero quickly gives the answer as he asks, leaving the teacher amazed. The man goes in with another question and the protagonist slams the table as he gives the answer. While the classmates are all shocked, the lecturer asks him another question and he gives the answer. However, the man starts laughing at him for getting it wrong until he realizes that the protagonist said the answer backward. The whole class is in disarray and the students can't comprehend how our hero is doing this. After defeating his teacher, he leaves the class and says he'll be seeing them on the exam day. Days later, the results of the exam come out and everyone is shocked to see who came out on top. It's none other than Lin Q, and he thanks his photographic memory for paving the way to victory for him. While Li Nan is dying from the disbelief that he was beaten by the bunny boy, the protagonist goes on to study his opponent for the next exam. 10 days later, the ability exam venue is packed with a cheerful crowd as they wait for the event to begin. The announcer starts by inviting the representative of the 30th Military Zone and other distinguished guests. As Zhen walks into the arena, she looks very pissed off for some reason. She ends up blasting a hole in a wall, and a guy explains that it's because someone took her top spot in the final exams. We see our hero walk into the arena, and as he waves over to the goddess, she gives a very cold response. After that, she asks him what he wants in return for winning their bet, to which Lin Q responds that they can go out for a meal if she so wishes. His kind gesture shocks her, and she apologizes for ever calling him weak. The announcer suddenly shows up and implies that the 2 top scorers in the final exam are here, but Zhen reads his words the wrong way. While he talks down on the protagonist for being a brave little bunny, the hero confidently says that he'll be taking first place in this exam. The whole crowd starts laughing at him and telling him not to get ahead of himself. However, Lin Q snatches the microphone from the announcer to give the crowd a piece of his mind. He throws up the finger to them and tells them that whoever they are supporting will be unfortunate to run into him. The entire crowd gazes at him with murderous eyes, ready to make him pay for spouting such daring words, but the hero remains unfazed. The announcer snatches back the microphone and warns him to be careful of what he says before it becomes a serious problem. The other participants are also furious and can't wait to teach the hero a lesson. Despite their taunts and threats, our hero is still calm. After that, the moderator tells them that the exam will be a 1 versus 1 arena battle, and the loser will be eliminated immediately. The participants check their phones to see the numbers that they have been assigned. Some of them don't look too happy about whatever they've gotten, and they can only hope that their matchups will be easy. The total number of participants turns out to be an odd number, so there will be a bye to allow someone to quickly advance to the next round. The examiners are all praying that they'll be chosen to be the lucky person, except our hero, who doesn't look the least bit concerned. The draw starts, and everyone nervously looks as the numbers spin around the screen. It stops at the number 66, who is none other than our protagonist himself. I mean, who else could it have possibly been? Anyway, this only causes more people to hate him for being such a lucky little bunny. Rather than blame their abysmal luck, they're hating on the hero with the spotlight. With that settled, the competition proceeds to the first round, and the first participants are called up to the stage. Lin Kyo and the rest take their seats to watch and see how this first battle will unfold. As he looks at the matchups on the screen, he sees that the high school goddess is fighting in the first match. In the blink of an eye, the match is over, causing the protagonist to become quite uneasy. Jen quickly wins her match by turning her opponent into a popsicle. It's no surprise that she's so powerful, considering that she's a silver ice awakener. The protagonist opens up his book and begins to study her skills in order not to lose miserably when his fight comes. 10 minutes later, the next battle that takes place is a deadly and fierce one. Both combatants are going at it with all their might, ready to destroy each other and take home the prize. On the other hand, our hero is tuckered out from watching all the flashy moves because his brain is too useless to keep going. With no other choice, he talks to the robot system and tells it to hand over his skill for the day. He also calls out the robot for being too lazy and not wanting to talk to him anymore. However, the robot says it's because he's a pathetic noob, and it can't be bothered with such a piece of garbage. After that, it grants him an S-rank physical enhancement skill. Lin Kyo is happy to finally have a useful skill, and not the trash ones he's been having. He's also glad that the system isn't as useless as he was thinking. However, the robot warns him to watch his words, or he'll never get anything good in his life again. After that, the protagonist activates his newfound skill, enhancing his muscles by a good amount. His muscles grow to a huge size and ends up ripping his shirt apart. He starts showing off and making everyone else in the stadium quite uncomfortable. After embarrassing himself, the second round of the tournament begins. A second bye is drawn, and he comes out as the lucky winner once again. On the second day of the exam, Lin Kyo still gets the lucky pass and advances to the next round with no effort. On the third day, the same thing happens, and even he is getting tired of being a lucky piece of trash. When a reporter asks how he feels about the consecutive byes, he tells the guy that he's sick of it and can't wait to get some blood on his hands. All the participants are completely fed up with him as well and are so eager to teach the weak bunny a lesson. Linan takes the microphone and calls out the protagonist for advancing in the rounds but not having a single fight yet. In order to mess up his lucky streak, the guy decides to withdraw from the tournament, which means that our hero will have to battle it out henceforth. Filled with immeasurable joy, the announcer grabs the microphone from Linan and states how the protagonist needs to be crushed in the next round. One of the participants sees this as a good opportunity to put an end to our hero's stroke of luck. The matchups are drawn, and the crowd is rooting for the hero's opponent, Lei Dan, who they are hoping will beat the crap out of Lin Kyo. The protagonist looks over to his opponent, who gestures that this is the end of the road for the bunny boy. But Lin Kyo doesn't understand why everyone is hating on him so much. As the match starts, Lei Dan starts talking trash about how our hero is unlucky to face him. Despite all his trash talk, Lin Kyo isn't fazed and pretty much just wants to get this over with. Being a bronze 8-star lightning awakener, Lei Dan activates his powers with a furious expression on his face. Straight off the bat, he shoots out a lightning bolt at the hero, but Lin Kyo easily dodges the first attack. The bolt strikes the ground, causing a huge destruction at the point of impact. Disappointed by his opponent's lame attack, the protagonist tells the guy that he has only come this far because he faced weaklings. The guy gets even more furious and starts hurling lightning blasts everywhere. Regardless, the protagonist evades every single blast with minimum effort. With no other choice, Lei Dan engulfs the entire platform in lightning, leaving our hero with nowhere to run. Our hero recalls how dangerous lightning attacks can be, considering he almost died to one. Before the attack can reach him, he leaps forward to end the battle before his opponent can pull off any other tricks. As he throws a haymaker, his foe is shocked at how fast he is. Seeing that Lin Kyo has transformed, Lei Dan feels like he will be able to endure the punch coming right at him. However, his hopes are shattered when our hero sends the fool flying into the air with a powerful punch. With that one punch, the guy gets sent out of the ring and knocked out of the competition. After that, the protagonist is declared the winner of the fight. The whole crowd goes wild with the protagonist's unbelievable first victory. Principals of top universities, Jiang Wen and Lu Zhen, are already arguing about who will get to have our hero in their universities. Meanwhile, Lin Kyo goes up against his next opponent, who is a power awakener. After watching his previous fight carefully, Lu Zhen says that the protagonist didn't use any mana, but the other principal thinks it's impossible, given how powerful our hero's punch was. He wonders just how terrifying the hero's true strength is without mana. The next match commences between Lin Q and another opponent known as Shen Gui. This foe is a wolf animorph, and his aura looks more menacing than all the others that our hero has faced. The protagonist becomes cautious after seeing the terrifying aura, but Shen Gui is alarmed when he sees how powerful Lin Q is. Before the fight can even begin, he falls to his knees and admits defeat like a loser. Just like that, our hero advances to the next round. The same thing happens with his next opponent, who also throws in the towel before they can get to fight. It repeats itself again, and he wonders why he can't just find someone decent to fight. In the blink of an eye, the protagonist advances all the way to the top 8 contestants left. Zhen, who happens to be among the contestants, stares at Lin Qiu, wondering if they'll finally have a match. Meanwhile, our hero is feeling lonely with all this winning and concludes that taking part in the ability exam was a complete waste of his time. Just then, the robot calls out to him, saying that it's on his side. It then grants him a skill for the day, which allows him to wield any type of spear he can think of. However, Lin Q thinks it's a useless skill because people don't really use that kind of weapon in this age. While he is whining about his skill, the high school goddess approaches him. Lin Qiu quickly sits up when he sees her and asks if she's here just for him. She then tells him that she has a few things to say. Zhen asks if he's interested in being part of a team that she's putting together to explore a bronze dungeon. The confused look on his face tells how shocked he is to hear that she actually wants to explore a bronze dungeon. During the dawn of mana, countless dungeons were created and filled with mana beasts and different kinds of treasures. These mana beasts are like a treasure jackpot. Their skins are precious, and their mana pearls help awakeners to become stronger. Lin Xiu, being a complete fool, thinks this is an opportunity to go on a date with the goddess and have her all over him. She quickly shatters that awful thought by saying that there will be 6 other people on the team. He shamelessly accepts but asks why they need other people for the dungeon exploration. This guy really is a buffoon. Zhen ignores his question and says she'll contact him when the time comes. As she leaves, he suggests that they continue talking over a cup of coffee. However, she tells him to prepare well for the fights ahead because she has no plans to go easy on him. The day of the finals arrives, and the crowd is more pumped up than ever before. Everyone is glazing the high school goddess and hoping that she destroys the protagonist. As they've all been waiting for, the match between the high school goddess and our hero is finally about to go down. As the moderator announces the matchup, Zhen points to the protagonist and swears that the first position won't escape her again. However, he doesn't really care about the first place thing and wishes that she wouldn't take this so seriously. Despite that, he advises her to give up while she can because he has no plans of holding back either. The two combatants take their stances, ready to fight for the prize of the day. As she tries to warn him about her silver-ranked ability, the hero rushes in with a punch and tells her to be careful. She easily parries his hand, causing him to lose balance. At that moment, she slips behind and slams him with a powerful kick. Lin Qiu manages to quickly get back on his feet. Thanks to his physical enhancement, he's able to survive her attacks, which are normally enough to send him to his maker. From Zhen's expression, you can tell she plans on making sure that he regrets ever fighting her. But our hero rushes towards her with an unwavering determination. The fight has only just begun, and he plans to give it his all. Lin Qiu charges in with a barrage of punches, but Zhen is able to block every single one of them. As he lets out his next attack with all his efforts, she instantly pops up behind him, leaving him puzzled. By the time our hero manages to look back, it's already too late. She strikes him with her elbow, and the protagonist falls to the ground in defeat. As he pathetically lies in defeat, the goddess tells him to give up because his fighting skills are beyond horrible. She mocks him more by reminding him that she hasn't even used her ice abilities in all of this. However, our hero manages to get back up and is looking for a way to end this fight as soon as possible. While struggling to catch his breath, an idea suddenly pops into his head. He turns to the moderator and asks for a timeout, which completely shocks everyone. The guy doesn't even give him an answer before he jumps off the fighting arena. He quickly grabs the mop stick by the side and asks if he can use it as a weapon. The guy tells him that no one has ever made such a shameless and stupid request in history. However, Zhen says it's fine and allows the hero to use the mop stick. She feels that he's looking down on her and plans to end it all this time around. Lin Qiu gets back on stage, and he wields the mop like a spear as they get ready to continue the battle. Lin Qiu's aura begins to shine brightly, thanks to his skill, and Zhen notices that there's something off about him. He blasts forward to attack, while she tries to get some distance between herself and him. As he closes in and attacks her, she manages to evade his weapon. However, his skills activate and turn him into a superior spearman. The goddess swears to kill him, and he tries to apologize for hitting her. Despite his apology, she is not having it. She sends out a barrage of ice spears at him, and he manages to evade them. Feeling enraged, the high school goddess activates a more powerful ability that starts to freeze the whole arena. Our hero notices that his movements have slowed down thanks to the freezing temperature. Caught in a very tough situation, the protagonist sees that he can only stand a chance if he morphs. Sadly, he doesn't even have time to think about that because Jen keeps hurling ice spears at him. As the ice spears explode at the point of impact, she tells the host to call an ambulance and declare the results. But before the guy can declare her as the winner, our hero emerges from the smoke with his bunny ears and tells Jen not to run off just yet. He charges at her with his enhanced speed, and she quickly puts on ice gauntlets to defend herself. Linkyo closes in on her and manages to crack her ice armor because of his morphed state. Things are looking very grim for the high school goddess, but she refuses to take second place again. Refusing to accept defeat, Jen begins to channel more power into her body. Suddenly, she surpasses her limits and advances to a silver 2-star rank. This worries the protagonist because his opponent is bound to get hurt at the slightest mistake. He quickly tells the judge to pause because he feels that she's cheating. The guy explains that advancing to a new rank is not cheating, and the bunny boy is nothing but an idiot. On the other hand, Jen wonders why our hero didn't attack her while she advanced to a new level. This amuses her, but she tells him to stop messing around and continue their battle. Linkyo takes a defensive stance and gets ready to face her again. She warns that she is much stronger than she was earlier. While doing that, she attacks with stronger abilities. Our hero uses his spear as a pole to save himself from getting turned into a popsicle. Some ice spears still manage to pierce him, and he sees that Jen's attacks are a lot faster and more powerful than before. He stomps his spear into the ground, but the Jen's attacks knock him off balance, causing him to fall back to the ground. As if that's not enough, the high school goddess charges up a more powerful ice attack and sends the barrage at her foe. The protagonist tries to endure the cold attacks, but there's nothing much he can do. Despite his physical enhancement, he still doesn't have the mana to withstand such a powerful attack. With no other choice, he lunges straight at her to bring the fight to an end. Feeling amazed by his determination, Jen admits that she underestimated him. As he closes in, she gets ready to use another ability, but he puts her in a headlock before it gets more dire for him. She ends up punching his face as she struggles to break free of his grasp. As they struggle, they both tip over and fall. Our hero quickly saves the high school goddess from falling on the hard ground. She tells him to let go because of how injured he is, but he refuses to let her go unless she admits defeat. He even threatens to bite her if she doesn't give up, further making himself look like a deranged creep. He lets her know that he has no concerns about the competition and that he just wants to win. Upon hearing this, Jen lets out a heavy sigh and admits defeat to the host. After that, our hero passes out and crashes to the ground due to the accumulated fatigue he has. The girl rushes over to him to make sure that he's all right. As she calls out his name, his consciousness fades out. When he wakes up, he sees himself in a bed with his head bandaged up. As the robot sees that he's awake, it gives him a skill upgrade ability that upgrades him from a white rabbit to a mischievous rabbit. Linkyo loses it when he finds out that the weird dream he had was all because of the stupid robot. After that, he quickly accesses the system to receive his skill for the day. After a series of trash skills, he finally gets a triple S rank skill known as Dimensional Awakening. Without asking him, the system begins merging 2 of his skills. He tries to stop it, but it's too late. With the merge completed, he evolves into both a mischievous rabbit and a Dorabamon. Looking at his stomach, he asks the robot what the pouch on his stomach is supposed to do. It explains that the pouch is a 3-dimensional space that can be used to store anything. Aside from the 3-dimensional space, he also gains a skill that can transport him anywhere within 5 kilometers. Linkyo jumps out of bed and decides to test out this teleportation ability. As he thinks of a destination, the door immediately sends him to a random place. As he crashes on the ground, we see that he's in the room of a strange girl. The girl quickly grabs a dagger and asks him how he got there. We see that her name is Lixu, and she's the daughter of the owner of the building. He tries to calm her down and explain himself, but she doesn't give him the chance. Our hero cries out as Lixu gives him more injuries for invading her private space. Despite his injuries, he heads over to a coffee shop the next day to meet up with Jen. She waves over from her table where he sees her with a couple of other awakeners. As he approaches, she sees his injuries and asks if he's all right, since they are about to head out. She then introduces him to the team, starting with Chung Min and Zhang San. They both feel bad after seeing his injuries, and the healer even offers to patch him up. After that, he meets a guy known as Zhuang Chung, who is a fire-type awakener. The guy greets the protagonist and commends him on his fight at the arena. Jen tells the hero that there are 2 other members of their team, but they have some things to attend to. She then asks him about the acceptance from Lingwu University, and he says he has already received the letter. Feeling very nervous, the high school goddess also asks him which school he plans to go to. Being a fool, our hero thinks that she's asking because she's interested in him. He tells her that he's considering Lingwu University and asks if she wants to be in the same school as him. This time around, his flirting skills actually work because she admits that she wants to be in the same school. It's mostly because she wants to defeat him and redeem herself. After that, she moves on to more pressing matters and leaves the hero to continue fooling himself. She opens up a book and shows them the ice fox spirit, which will be their target. Due to the fact that ice foxes tend to live in packs, she can't handle it alone. She knows there might be nothing in it for them, but Chung-min tells her not to be so humble. They all see it as a good opportunity to train and be in her presence at the same time. The protagonist also says that he's lucky to be invited by the goddess for such an opportunity. Jenjin lets them know that they should call her by her name and not the goddess title. With that settled, she tells them they'll be departing in 3 days and will be meeting at our hero's house. The departure day arrives, and we see our hero packing up his bags and getting ready for the adventure of a lifetime. The system grants him his skill for the day, which happens to be another trash E-rank skill. The skill lets him master all languages on Earth, and a different one allows him to use all medical techniques as well. Despite how upset he is, the robot lets him know how lucky he has been with drawing skills daily. Linkyo is reminded about his pocket dimension, and the robot suggests that he toss his backpack into it. He lifts the bag and it gets absorbed into the dimension, despite its huge size. The system tells him that all the items in his room can still fit into the dimension. While he is amazed by how insane that is, he hears a car horn from his window. He looks out to see that the team has arrived, and he lets them know that he'll be down in a bit. Inside the car, Chung-min stares awkwardly at his pocket dimension. Everyone is really amazed by how useful the skill is because they've never seen anything like it before. Jinjin tells him that his skill is very rare, which makes him quite overpowered. Out of curiosity, Chung-min asks for permission to touch it. Linkyo stops her from doing something so weird, but she is very eager to see how it feels. After messing around, the driver tells them that they've arrived at their destination. Upon hearing this, Lin Kui gets down to take a look at the scenery. There, he gazes at a pillar of pure aura and power, and also sees some researchers at the base of it. This sight is amazing, and he can't believe this is the Lingwu he's heard so much about. It's said that no one knows when Lingwu appeared, and it is filled with all kinds of spirit beasts. Back then, portals surrounded the city, and the citizens were struck with fear. Spirit beasts can enter the realm of man, but for some reason, they rarely step into it. Regardless, humanity has to defend itself on the rare occasion when the beasts decide to step through and wreak havoc. Due to this, the state sends government staff to handle the registration of copper and silver rank Lingwu gates. The protagonist's team approaches the dungeon portal and sees some guards taking note of those who enter. Just as they are about to enter, the list gets full, so the guard tells them to go and register and come back the next day. As Jen registers her team, the hero stares at the gate, taking note of how intense the spiritual energy is. Chung-min comes over to him and drags him off to God knows where. When he asks where they are going, she says she's taking him back to the car so she can study his pocket dimension. Unknown to them, another awakener is keeping an eye on them. The guy looks at the hero's team and assumes that they are very rich. His lackeys suggest that they look for trouble by stealing from Lin Q and his teammates. The leader's name is Yang Hu, and he's a 5-star silver rank. From the woods, he and one of his lackeys keep an eye on their prey, waiting for the right time to strike. He says that his Zhonglan group is known for harassing weaker adventurers and stealing all their wealth. As he proceeds with his team, he vows to bury the protagonist and his comrades in Lingwu. The next day, Lin Qiu and his team go into the gate to start their exploration. They step through and arrive in a green field with vast mountains surrounding the area. The group is completely speechless when they see how large the space actually is. Jinjin urges them to get going because they still have some days before they reach their destination. As they proceed, she tells Chung-min to keep an eye on their surroundings in case of any looming danger. The bunny girl activates her radar system, which uses echolocation to keep track of her surroundings. With everything set, the goddess tells her team to move out. Meanwhile, the Xionglan group is close by and keeping an eye on them. The leader tells his men to stall since they are still in an open area. He plans to wait until they get into the forest, where he can easily ambush them. While the team walks through the grass plains, they come across some majestic mythical sheep. They get into a fierce fight with the beasts but easily overcome them. The protagonist tells his teammates that the sheep fur is worth some money and they should stop burning it up. After that, they search around for anything valuable, and Chung-min comes across 2 gems. Suddenly, a pack of wolves approaches them from higher ground. Jenjin tells her people to prepare themselves, but they shouldn't be the first ones to attack. The wolves are known to become stronger when their comrades are injured. Our hero then brings up a suggestion to attack the leader of the wolf pack, but she tells him that the wolves are tricky and their leader won't be caught fighting among them. Seeing how difficult the situation is, our hero opens up his teleportation door to go find the pack leader himself. He tells his comrades to stay put and wait for his return. The hero appears on the other side of the portal and quickly points out the pack leader. He smashes the wolf's head with his bat, knocking the senses out of the poor creature. With their pack leader defeated, The other wolves see Lin Q as a terrifying and powerful demon. They end up running away to save themselves, and the protagonist gets praised for his skills. After that, he rips the pack leader apart to find any valuable items. To their amazement, he finds a pearl that can grant him the stealth skill. He stares intently at the pearl, wondering how to put it to its best use. He then hands it over to Shen Gui, believing that he'll be the best to use it since he's their scout. To return the favor, the guy promises to repay everyone, considering how valuable the pearl is. After that, Shen Gui absorbs the skill pearl into his body. The team is bewildered when the item suddenly vanishes in the blink of an eye. While the guy celebrates his new skill, our hero wishes he had just kept the precious pearl for himself. He then accesses the system for his daily skill and gets an S-rank enhancement skill. He recalls getting the skill before, and in that instant, his shirt gets ripped by his muscles. He curses the robot for humiliating him and tells his teammates that he'll be back after cleaning up. While changing, he finds out that his physical strength is now comparable to that of a silver 6-star power awakener. After being baffled by this, he heads back to his team camp, where they've set up a campfire. He suddenly starts laughing sheepishly, which makes the high school goddess uncomfortable. When she confronts him, he tells her not to worry about it. Suddenly, Chungmin informs Zhen about them being followed. She lets the goddess know that their pursuers are maintaining a favorable distance in order not to lose them. Zhen warns her comrades about a group that specializes in hunting others inside dungeons. Since wounds and death are normal inside a dungeon, the murderous group finds it easy to kill others and plunder their loot. She also tells them that their pursuers will most likely attack once they get into the forest. The protagonist assures her that he'll be there to protect her, but she brushes him off and tells him just to be prepared for the attack. The next day, our hero draws an E-rank taming ability. This puts off his mood because he was looking forward to an awesome skill for the day. Suddenly, he hears Zhen screaming and turns to figure out what's going on. When he heads out, he sees 2 giant serpents causing panic among his teammates. An overwhelming fear strikes him as he stares at the monstrous beast. Through his newly acquired taming skills, he sees the monster's dangerous traits. He rushes to his teammates and tells them to retreat and not fight the serpent. At that moment, the monster spits its venomous poison at them, but they are able to jump out of the way in the nick of time. Zhen then tells Dian Lei that they'll be attacking the monsters from afar in order to avoid their poison. The two of them send out a combination of lightning and ice attacks at the beasts. They manage to overwhelm the serpents with their attacks and fatally wound them. Moments later, the beasts fall to the ground in utter defeat. As our hero moves to harvest whatever resources are inside the monster, they notice a strange movement inside it. He tells his teammates to wait and keep their distance while he gets closer to whatever is moving inside the serpent. He slices open the sack, and a strange creature known as a grassland marmot jumps out of it. While the guys can't make sense of why a marmot showed up, the girls see it as a very cute creature. The marmot jumps on Lin Kui's shoulder, making him quite uncomfortable and scared. Realizing that our hero is of no use, the creature jumps onto the high school goddess, cuddling her. The protagonist is pissed by this but continues to slice open the serpent to look for more items. In the process, he finds 2 mana pearls. The marmot shows its interest in the pearls, but our hero has no plans of handing them over. He then notices that the creature is trying to make a deal for the mana pearls, but he doesn't buy it. With no other choice, the creature snatches the pearls away. Lin Ku's comrade tries to console him, but our hero can't stop thinking about how much money he could have made. On the other hand, Zhen hears some strange noises coming from the forest. Minmin then points out a beam of light heading straight for them at a terrifying pace. The team braces themselves for battle as the threat draws closer. Suddenly, the marmot bursts out of the ground with a pearl along with its friends. The group is completely baffled when they see the numerous marmots sprouting from underground. The creature calls its friends over, and they assemble a huge pile of mana pearls for the hero. The marmot tells him that it's a sign of gratitude for the 2 pearls it took from him earlier. After that, Chungmin takes note of the total number of pearls there and the ones that have skills as well. Looking closer at them, Lin Chu sees that there are no rare or earth-type pearls, because they were probably absorbed by the marmots. The protagonist then hands over the fire-type pearls to Zhuangcheng. After that, the high school goddess tells him that he can keep all the remaining pearls for himself. She says it's a way of thanking him for helping them to kill the giant snakes easily. He shyly accepts the pearls and compliments from his teammates. While stuffing them into his pocket dimension, Zhen asks him to try and absorb one of the pearls. He then tries to absorb a pearl, despite never doing it before. A bright light radiates from the pearl as he absorbs it, and he advances to a bronze 3-star adventurer. While his comrades congratulate him, Zhen wonders if the pearl had that much mana. However, she still congratulates him after he brags about how he was training for a month. After that, she thanks the marmot for the pearls and gets ready to send it off with its friends. However, our hero still wants the creature to help him out with something. With an evil look in his eyes, he coerces the poor creature to tag along with them. Meanwhile, The Zhonglan group is still spying on the protagonist's team. The bandits are eager to attack as the team enters the forest, but their leader tells them to calm down. Yang Hu tells his lackeys to allow the hero's team to go in further since they won't have any way to escape. He'll give them the signal to attack once they let down their guard. When night falls, we see our hero close to a trench being dug by the marmot. He then gives the creature some spikes to stick into the trench. After that, he opens up a can of the cobra venom he got earlier and spills it all over the spikes. With his trap fully ready, he bids the marmots and his friends farewell. After concealing the traps, Zhenjin tells him that Chungmin wants to speak to them. The two of them head to the campfire spot to meet up with her and hear what she has to say. The bunny girl tells them that the pursuers are very close and she can hear them clearly. She figures out that the bandits plan to ambush them in the middle of the night. She also finds out that the group is known as the Feral Wolves, who are known for killing newbies at bronze dungeons. The protagonist notices how scared his teammates are, which causes him to be very worried. He quickly gets up and tells them to stop their chatter. He advises them to calm down because this won't be like facing an opponent in an arena. The slightest mistake can cost them their lives. He then heads over to Shen Gui and tells him to protect Chung Min and Zhang San, since they're the weaklings of the group. Meanwhile, Zhen is amazed at how good the hero is at being a leader, unlike her, who immediately becomes nervous. After telling the two weaklings to keep themselves safe, Lin Qiu moves to address the high school goddess. However, he ends up flirting with her and trying to act like a savior. She laughs at him but surprisingly says that she'll be counting on him. When midnight falls, the bandit group slowly approaches the tents of our hero's team. Yang Hu tells his lackeys that it's time for them to hunt their prey. As they get closer, the leader orders his men to split up and surround the tents. With the orders given, the men quickly head out to surround their targets from all directions. Meanwhile, one of the guys feels like Yang Hu is making a deal of the whole operation. At that moment, he suddenly walks into our hero's trap and falls into the trench. The wooden spikes impale his body and give him a quick death. Before Yang Hu figures out what's going on, he sees that most of his men have fallen into the traps. As he orders them to regroup, one of the lackeys reports that 2 men are already dead. Someone else got severely injured and doesn't look like he'll make it. As the leader curses at the situation, Lin Qiu and his group emerge from their tents. Yang Hu quickly admits that the protagonist had him fooled, but he plans to end everything immediately and send them to their maker. However, our hero raises his hand in the air and snaps his finger, signaling the rest of his comrades. As the bandits look at the incoming attack from above, trails of fire and lightning strikes where they are. Zhuangcheng and Shen Gui appear and charge up their spells to attack. The bandit leader notices that they've been ambushed and tells his men to spread out, but some of them are already caught in the explosion. Meanwhile, Zhen tells our hero that she's ready. She casts an ice seal spell, causing a trail of ice to travel along the ground, straight for the bandits. The ice freezes their legs, trapping them in place with nowhere to run. While they struggle to break free, the ice and fire awakeners combine their spells to take them out. As the dust clears up, Yang Hu is informed about the death of another one of his men. With no other choice, the rest of them brace themselves to take on our hero's team. The group of silver rank bandits begins to emit a powerful and deadly aura. Upon seeing their terrifying aura, the high school goddess becomes very nervous. Upon hearing the threats from the enemy, our hero lets them know that his actions are only for self-defense. On the other hand, Zhen grows more scared when she sees the overwhelming strength of the bandits. She decides to keep their leader busy and tells Lin Qiu to deal with the last one. However, he notices how anxious she is and reminds her to remain calm because he is there to help. As she walks away shyly, she wishes him good luck in the battle. The protagonist then orders Zhang San to hide away while the rest of the team protects the guy. Not only are his teammates baffled by this, but the enemy team can't believe that a bronze rank guy is trying to be the hero. One of the bandits gets provoked by Lin Qiu's words and moves to attack him quickly. The guy unleashes a huge tornado, heading straight for our hero and his teammates. However, the protagonist easily evades the attack when he sees how slow it is. He gets close to the enemies and smacks them around with his overwhelming strength. He stomps on their heads and mocks them for being defeated so easily when he has barely started. As Zhang San applauds his efforts, Lin Qiu says it's all thanks to the weapon he is wielding. Meanwhile, the high school goddess is being overwhelmed by the Xionglang group leader. Our hero rushes over to help her when he sees how dire the situation is. He shows up behind Yang Hu, but the bandit leader already notices his presence. Regardless, the hero swings down at him with all his might. When the dust clears up, Yang Hu sees that his subordinates have been killed by the attack. After witnessing the death of his comrades, the leader accuses the protagonist of using some kind of trick to defeat them. Upon hearing this, Lin Qiu decides to show the guy what a real trick looks like and ends up scaring the guy down to his bones. The guy jumps back to get some distance between him and the hero. Filled with anger, he activates his rage skill, ready to rip our hero to shreds. He then charges forward and attacks Lin Qiu with his claws, but the protagonist is able to block the attack with his weapon. Despite showing off before, Lin Chu is struggling under the pressure of Yang Hu's overwhelming strength. The leader eventually knocks him off balance and sends him flying backward. As the protagonist slides back, he starts thinking of a way to face such a powerful opponent. Meanwhile, Yang Hu rushes at him, yelling for him not to be distracted in this fight. Lin Qiu evades the attack aimed straight at his head. He continues evading the flurry of attacks being put out by the crazy bandit leader. On the other hand, Yang Hu needs to end the fight soon before his ability runs out. Suddenly, he grows a tail and tells our hero to try and dodge his tiger's whip. He strikes down at Lin Qiu with his tail, but the protagonist manages to hold off the attack with his bat. Sadly, it doesn't last for long because Yang Hu shatters the bat and smacks him away. Seeing that he can't underestimate his opponent any longer, our hero figures it might be time to use his trump card. The protagonist activates his teleportation door and declares that the fight is over with this. The enemy becomes confused when our hero vanishes into the portal. He is even more shocked when the protagonist suddenly appears above him from another portal. However, he still sees it as a favorable condition to put an end to the protagonist. The fear in our hero's eyes grows wider as his enemy closes in on him. But at that moment, he signals to his comrades to attack. Zhen and the two guys then show up, ready to unleash their spells on the unfortunate bandit leader. At the same time, our hero vanishes into his portal again, leaving Yang Hu to a terrible fate. Just as the leader realizes what ability the protagonist is using, the magic spells strike him, causing a huge explosion. After that, Lin Qiu congratulates his team on a job well done. Meanwhile, Yang Hu lies on the floor in an utter and humiliating defeat. When Zhang San checks on the body, he confirms that the bandit leader is dead. Suddenly, a sharp pain strikes Zhen, most likely due to the strain from the battle. Lin Qiu rushes to her side and asks if she's all right. He looks at his other teammates and sees how the battle has affected them. He lets them know that their actions were only a form of self-defense because they would have been dead if they hadn't killed the bandits. Upon hearing these encouraging words, his teammates start to feel better about the situation. He then tells them to find somewhere to rest and straighten out their thoughts as well. With everyone feeling better, he leads them to a good spot that's away from the dead bodies. As they head off, Zhen has a relaxed and joyous expression on her face. When they get to a safe location, Lin Qiu tells his teammates to get some rest while he and Zhang San keep watch. He then gets his injuries healed by their support and thanks him for it. The guy says that our hero is more amazing, but Lin Qiu tells him not to be so humble because he's their best support. Suddenly, Zhen shows up and tells the guy to get some rest while she and the protagonist keep watch instead. With her alluring looks, she tells them that she wants to discuss something with our hero. Zhang San quickly heads out and leaves our hero to talk with his crush. As Zhen sits down beside Lin Qiu, he starts feeling very nervous and shy. Wondering what she wants to talk about, he looks at her, and their eyes lock on each other. He starts feeling embarrassed and kindly asks her not to stare so much. However, the high school goddess laughs at him and calls him a shameless man for his words. She then glances over at him again and admits that he looks quite handsome. However, our hero becomes very flustered because Zhen wouldn't compliment him like that on a normal day. While extending a helping hand, she lets him know that she's serious and recalls all the brave deeds he did that day. She even tells him that he acted very cool, leaving Lin Qiu even more baffled by her words. In the heat of the moment, he grabs her hand and asks if she has a boyfriend. That's quite a leap of faith he's taking. Regardless, his question ends up making her very confused and flustered. She quickly snatches her hand back and asks Lin Qiu why he's asking such a question. The protagonist tells her that he was wondering if she wanted him, considering all the compliments she just gave him. Zhen lets him know that she has high standards and will prefer someone who is better than her in all aspects. She refuses to admit defeat and says they'll find out who is the best between them in the coming exams. Feeling very confident and eager, our hero then asks her what she'll do if he beats her during the exams. He asks her to be his girlfriend if he wins, but Zhen tells him to keep wishing. While they're talking, they get interrupted by other guys who have come to take the night shift. The protagonist bids the goddess farewell, but she is too upset at him to respond. The next morning, Lin Qiu wakes up and immediately draws his skill for the day. Luckily for him, he acquires an S-rank mana enhancement skill. With this, he manages to advance by 2 levels, making him a bronze 5-star. When he asks the system to make him a silver rank, it gets pissed off at his outrageous request. After that, he heads out of his tent to meet up with the rest of his team. Zhang San, who is shocked to see him, notices that our hero's mana has gone up significantly and asks if he has already advanced. While being distracted, the healer ends up cutting himself with a knife on the table. His teammates rush to his side to make sure he's all right, and Chung Min tends to his wounds gently. After that, he turns his attention to Lin Qiu, saying that it's weird for him to advance twice in one night. The other guys hear this and are completely taken away by such an impressive feat. As he tells them to stop teasing him, Min tells them to get ready to defend against an incoming attack. They look ahead and see some people running away from a huge group of mana beasts heading straight for them. Upon seeing the wild creatures, our hero becomes quite scared and nervous. Looking closer, he sees the wild monkeys about to clamp down on an innocent girl. He shields his teammates from the wild beasts momentarily, and then they start running away as the monsters charge at them. One by one, they start to get tired from running around and can't keep up the pace for much longer. Seeing that there's no use running any longer, Shengui stops and decides that they should fight the monkeys. The wild beasts quickly close in on them, leaving the team with no other choice than to fight. As the protagonist cracks a stick to use as a weapon, Zhenjin tells him to kill her if they lose. Chungmin would also rather die if it gets bad, but our hero assures the girls that he'll protect them no matter what. He charges forward to stall the monsters so that the girls can charge up their strongest spells. As soon as he gets in the midst of the monkeys, they quickly set their sights on him. However, he smacks them around with his brute strength. Despite beating up a lot of them, more of the monkeys continue charging towards him. The situation gets worse as Zhenjin notices more beasts charging towards them. A monkey pops out of nowhere and reaches for her, but a huge blast suddenly goes off. She suddenly sees the protagonist holding off the monkey that nearly had her some seconds ago. Lin Kyo smacks the hell out of the beast and kills it. Unknown to him, another beast sneaks up on him from behind. While the hero's guard is down, the monkey slashes his shoulder, leaving him wounded. Zhenjin then tells him to step aside because their spells are ready. As he gives them space, the girls release very devastating spells at the monkeys. The impact causes a huge explosion that shakes the very foundations of the forest. With that, the ravenous monsters are easily defeated, but Min Min senses another wave of mana beasts coming at them. As the dust clears up, they see another set of monkeys being led by a huge golden gorilla, who they assume is the leader. With their resources and stamina completely drained, the team finds themselves in a dire situation. Chungmin starts crying and saying that she doesn't want to die like this. Chang-san is moved by the girl's tears and decides to do whatever it takes to save her. He brings out his phone and suddenly starts typing something. He then yells for someone known as Zhao Si to reveal himself as he clicks the send button. Out of nowhere, a man suddenly appears on the battlefield and refers to the healer as his master. Zhao Si faces our hero's team with a cigarette in his hand as they wonder just who exactly he is. It is revealed that the guy is a gold rank awakener with an ape animorph ability. His master then calls him out for stealing the cigarette and orders him to defeat the monsters quickly. The guy takes off his jacket and activates his ability, releasing a deadly aura in the process. When Jungsan's teammates ask about the guy, he tells them that Zhao Si is his family's manager. With his ape ability, Zhao Si charges forward to defeat the monsters that threaten his master. As Zhao Si closes in on the apes, the ape leader tells the runts to stand back while he deals with the awakener. The beast charges straight at the awakener and attacks, but the guy easily grabs the ape's arm. He then slams it all over the ground, leaving the weaker apes completely terrified and hopeless. After that, Zhao Si tosses their leader into the midst, where he lies on the floor in utter defeat. As if they haven't suffered enough, the guy's menacing shadow stands over them like a merciless god. He lets out a terrifying roar, causing the weak apes to flee for their lives. As the monsters run away, our hero admits that gold rank awakeners are quite scary. With his job done, Zhao Si informs his master that he'll be leaving. The guy takes off into the sky as they bid each other farewell. Min Min then asks their healer if Zhao Si has always been close to them, and he confirms it. He also says that Lei Dan's family also wanted to send an escort, but they concluded on only Zhao Si. He then apologizes for not informing Lei Dan about the decision earlier. Lei Dan admits that if they knew someone was protecting them, they wouldn't have gone all out with their training. Thanks to the training from the past few days, he suddenly advances to the next rank. Not only him, but Min Min also advances as well. Seeing the situation, our hero wonders if he can also advance his rank as well. He pulls out an orb and begins to meditate deeply on his mana. In the process, he starts to feel something warm flowing through him. Lin Kyo ends up just embarrassing himself while his teammates stare in utter disbelief. He gets in a sad mood after not being able to advance like the rest of his comrades. The system even calls him out for wanting to advance again, but he feels like the only weakling in his team. While searching the body of the ape leader, he suddenly finds a mana pearl. He finds out that it's a silver mana pearl, and it also has a rare sound skill that can stun enemies. He then calls Jungsan's attention and offers the pearl to him, leaving the guy very surprised. The protagonist tells him to offer the pearl to Chung Min since he has seen how much he likes her. The fatso starts daydreaming about Chung Min and how she'll make the perfect wife. Talk about a desperate fool. Anyway, he offers to send our hero a huge amount of money once they leave the dungeon. Full of joy, Jungsan stares at the pearl and thinks about how to approach his crush with it. Suddenly, Chung Min approaches him and asks why he's smiling so sheepishly. Just as he's about to chicken out, Lin Chu comes over and pushes him forward. Jang San ends up kneeling with the pearl in his hand and looks like he's proposing to Chung Min. She sees the sound pearl and is filled with warm emotions. As Zhang-san tells her that the pearl is for her, she embraces him with a big, warm hug. After that, Zhenjin reminds everyone that they need to pack up and get moving. Moments later, the team arrives at the border between the forest and the snowfield. The high school goddess suggests that they rest there for the night before going into the snowy mountains. As they set up their tents, the protagonist notices that Zhenjin is freezing due to the cold. He takes off his jacket and offers it to her with some slick riz skills. She gladly accepts the jacket with a cheerful smile on her face. Unknown to them, a deadly snow bear is lurking around the area, looking for its next prey. The next day, our hero steps out of his tent as Zhang-san tells them that breakfast is ready. As Lin Q nibbles on bread, he draws his skill for the day. Sadly, it's an E-rank skill, and he curses the robot for being so useless. With his day off to a bad start, he tells the healer to pass him some honey in order to lift his mood. Suddenly, the snow bear shows up and snatches the honey jar from Zhang-san. The two guys are scared to their bones when the monster lets out a loud roar. Chungmin quickly shows up and activates her new ability to stun the beast. Her other comrades also show up in time, and together they beat up the terrifying bear. Moments later, we see the bear lying on the ground with its senses completely knocked out. Zhenjin compliments Chungmin on her awesome stun ability. As she informs them that they'll be reaching their destination that day, our hero gets ready to harvest the goods from the monster. Zhenjin lets him know that they need to get going, and he tells her that he's almost finished. Lin Kyo then decides to stuff the bear into his pocket dimension, making the goddess think that he has lost his mind. However, he tells her that it's not heavy for him at all. 3 hours later, the team finds themselves close to the fox den. With her echolocation, Chungmin senses the number of monsters nearby and tells her teammates to remain cautious. Something suddenly moves around them, and they turn to find out what it is. A cute baby fox then reveals itself, which makes the girls completely fall in love with the fluffy creature. The protagonist sees that the fox is easy to tame, but when its kin is harmed, it pursues its target endlessly. Considering that Zhenjin wants the creature's skill pearl, he is worried about her fondness for the creature. He calls her attention and tells her that dealing with the creature won't be so difficult. However, she doesn't seem too happy to bring harm to the cute fox. Regardless, our hero asks if she needs help with it. Zhenjin looks down at the innocent little fox in her arms and decides it's better to let the creature go. She feels she'll be just as bad as the previous assailants if she kills the fox. Being able to meet such a gentle mana beast is enough for her. Her comrades are all happy with her decision and expect nothing less from her. As she signals her comrades to leave, the protagonist quickly stops them. They suddenly see 2 large foxes approaching them. The creatures let out a loud and ferocious roar. The protagonist assumes that the monsters must be angry because they think that the humans took their child. However, the little fox walks up to its parents and calms them down by explaining the situation. The giant fox then gives the hero's team a gentle smile. Lin Kyo and his comrades are glad that the situation didn't get worse than it was. Thanks to his E-rank skills relating to animals, the protagonist approaches the foxes to see if he can get a skill pearl from them. He offers to give the fox something else in exchange for any mana pearls it may have. He finds out that the foxes have a mana pearl and will give it to him if he helps them defeat their natural enemy. How is this guy even talking with them? He swears to defeat any creature that would bring harm to such cute foxes. And the foxes tell him that it's the Snow Peak bear. The team is shocked to hear that it's the same bear that they defeated earlier. The protagonist opens up his pocket dimension and tosses out the dead bear, leaving the foxes baffled. In return, the snow foxes give him 2 mana pearls for defeating their enemy. Lin Kyo offers one of the pearls to the love of his life, who needs 1 skill. The rest of the team is eager for her to absorb the pearl and show off her new skill. Even the protagonist can't wait to see what this new skill will be. Zhenjin holds out the pearl and begins to absorb it. As she does so, she conjures up an ice bow and tells everyone to watch her. She shoots out a very powerful ice arrow, and the shockwave nearly blows the hero off his feet. The arrow travels quickly, destroying every single obstacle in its path. After seeing such an impressive feat, Lei Dan loses all hope of ever surpassing the high school goddess. After Lin Qiu congratulates Zhenjin on her awesome skill, Chungmin tells everyone to wait so they can take a picture together. Zhang San then heads over to the foxes to ask them to be used as a phone stand. He sets the timer and hands over the phone to the fox. Chungmin then calls him over, and the group gets together for a nice team photo. 3 days later, our hero is looking through the photo with so much joy. He suddenly starts getting notifications about money being sent from his teammates. Thanks to his expedition, he's now a millionaire. All that's left is to become number 1 on the upcoming exams, and he'll fit the role of a partner for Zhenjin, or so he thinks. The system butts in and tells him to stop daydreaming because Zhenjin will never consider a loser like him. However, he brags about how he's been studying every day and has advanced to a bronze 8-star awakener, but Pinocchio has nothing on this silly liar. After that, he draws his skill for the day and gets an A-rank zoom skill. He feels the skill will be useless for his exams, but will be more useful in his stupid plans. A month later, the day of the result announcements finally arrives. Our hero is with some of his team members at a cyber cafe where they are checking the results. Chungmin states how confident she is of being in the top 10, and Jongsan backs her up. On the other hand, Zhenjun takes the mouse from our hero as the announcement time arrives. A boiling rage fills her up when she sees the results. She then asks Linqiu how he was able to get such a result. The protagonist looks closer at the screen and sees that he got full marks for every subject. Jongsan can't believe how inhuman Linqiu is, and the hero starts feeling very proud. He then heads over to see Zhenjun's result, but she tells him to forget it and immediately admits that our hero has defeated her. The other guys can't believe how easily the goddess admitted defeat. After that, the hero starts showing off his riches and asks her when he can ask her parents for her hand in marriage. Zhenjun quickly calls him out for being a shameless idiot. He ends up pissing her off and getting his heart crushed, but Zhang San tries to cheer him up. Later on, Zhang San says they'll be meeting in 2 weeks to travel to M City together. The day before the departure, our hero does the last bit of packing up his luggage. He starts wondering if he'll ever return to this room where he's lived for the past 2 years. The system is shocked to see how sentimental he is, but he just tells the robot to give him his skill for the day. After doing the draw, the system gives him a mana enhancement skill again. As Linqiu recalls that he can increase his mana with this skill, the system immediately starts applying the ability. He tells it to stop because he feels he will soon advance to the next rank, so he doesn't see the need to use the enhancement now. The protagonist then starts meditating to try and advance his rank again. He adds a silver mana pearl to the items he's using and successfully advances to the bronze 9-star rank. With a successful advancement, he tells the system to go ahead with the mana enhancement. After using the skill, he easily advances to the silver 1-star rank, making him even stronger. With this, he gains a skill that allows him to pull or control items from afar. He decides to try it out to see just how awesome the ability is. With his sights on his backpack, he tries to bring the bag close to himself. Sadly, he ends up running out of mana and the bag barely moves an inch. The robot laughs at him and says that he's lucky that the bag even moved a bit. It will take a lot of training for him to master it, but our hero refuses to back down and continues trying to move the bag. The next day, his landlord's daughter sees his room door open, but she doesn't find him inside. She reads the letter he left behind on the table, telling her about his departure to go and study in Magic City. She then opens the envelope beside the letter and sees a ton of money in it. Lixu wonders how the protagonist was able to acquire so much money and hopes he didn't commit a crime. Meanwhile, our hero is already on a train with his friends, and Zhenjun is worried that he might catch a cold. When he gets a call, he picks up the phone, only to hear Lixu screaming in his ear like a banshee and asking if he did something wrong. He tells her that it's all right and that he earned all the money legally. After that, she tells him to study hard and improve his foundation with hard work. Lixu also tells him to introduce her to his girlfriend if he ever manages to get one. When the train arrives at Magic City, our hero tells Lixu that he has to go. On their way out, Jungsun remarks on how the hero's family must really care about him. The scene shifts to the bubbling town of Magic City, where we see a lot of people going about their daily business. A certain old man who is seen walking around is revealed to be Lu Zhen, Magic City's vice principal. He sees the hero with his friends and calls them over. He tells Lin Qiu that he knew they would come to his university and compliments them for their talents. The old man senses something off and notices that the protagonist is now a silver rank awakener. He tells the hero to come to his office once he's done with the registrations. However, our hero feels bad about being called to the principal's office on his first day. Later on, one of the staff members shows Lin Qiu and Zhang San to their room. When they get inside, Zhang San commends the protagonist for reaching silver rank so soon. The guy hopes that our hero's luck will rub off on him and he'll be able to grow at a fast rate too. Before heading to the principal's office, Lin Qiu accesses the system for his daily skill. He draws the physical enhancement skill once again and immediately applies it. After that, the system shows him that his current strength is akin to that of a gold 2-star power awakener. With this, the robot also informs him that future physical enhancements will come with an SS rank upgrade. Zhang San then reminds him to head over to the principal's office, and our hero quickly steps out. Lin Qiu arrives in the office and is told to take a seat by the vice principal. Lu Chen wants to ask him a few questions and starts by explaining the classification of ranks. He lists them from the lowest rank, bronze, to the highest, exalt rank, and then asks about the hero being an animorph. After confirming that Lin Qiu is a rabbit animorph, the old man wonders if Lady Luck visited the protagonist. Our hero tries to play it off, but he's nervous that the old man might know about his daily skill system. However, the old man continues to question how he was able to reach the silver rank so quickly. As Lin Qiu laughs it off, he tries to make up something to tell the vice principal. He tells the old man that he used mana pearls, but Lu Zhen still doesn't believe him. When asked about his number of skills, the hero says that he has 7, making the old man even more suspicious of him. Considering how influential he is, Lujin believes that the protagonist might not truly be a rabbit. However, our hero explains that he gained spatial abilities after evolving. Upon hearing this, Lujin is completely baffled. He didn't think that animorphs could evolve into other ability types. Linkyo then reveals his luggage from his pocket dimension, proving that his skills are actually true. After inspecting the luggage, the old man tells him that he has definitely come to the right university. He says it's because the principal, Ouyang is the only known true Valiance Awakener in the country. The protagonist gets really excited when he hears that the principal is also a spatial awakener, but he isn't at the school at the time. After that, Lujin asks if any others know about our hero's evolution, to which Lin Q responds that it's just his friends. The old man then tells him to make sure that his friends keep this a secret. Suddenly, the vice principal tells Lin Q to punch with all his strength. After seeing how good his physique is, the old man wants to test out his strength. Our hero charges up all the strength he can muster and lands the most powerful punch on the man. As the dust clears, he asks the old man if he's all right. Meanwhile, Lujin is nervously sweating with his feet planted firmly on the ground. After confirming that his physique is at the gold rank, the vice principal threatens to take the repair money out of Lin Q's scholarship. Moments later, he decides to give our hero a spot at a competition the following month since he has a gold rank physique. Despite the old man explaining how prestigious the exam is, Lin Q refuses to partake in it. He tries to persuade the protagonist more by mentioning the cash prize of the competition. Upon hearing the amount, our hero shamelessly agrees to do his best. As the hero walks back into his room, Jang-san welcomes him and mentions that their roommates have arrived. Lin Q struggles to hold in his laughter once he sees the guy with green hair. The guy's name is Zhang Hongyang, and he's a bronze 9-star awakener. After mocking the guy, our hero turns to the other person in the room and assumes that he's the father of the green-haired kid. The older guy walks up to him with an intimidating aura, and Jang-san explains that he's also one of their roommates. Regardless, the protagonist doesn't understand how this guy looks so much older than everyone else. After joking around, Hongyang suggests that they find out who is the oldest among themselves. They all bring out their IDs, and sadly for the rest, Lin Chu turns out to be the oldest person in the room. Hongyang is beyond pissed off when he sees this, and decides that the rest should refer to him as number 2. Someone passes by their room and informs them that the counselor has asked them to gather in a class. They all head out together and arrive in the classroom. As they approach the seats, the other students are shocked to see something. The old roommate quickly explains that he's also a student, but the others have already gotten the wrong impression of his looks. A lady walks up behind the protagonist and tells them to take their seats. Her name is Han Junning, and she's an 8-star Platinum Awakener. She introduces herself as the counselor to the class and tells the students to come meet her for any help. After that, she says the reason for the gathering is for them to select a class representative and introduce themselves. She gives an example by introducing herself as a 9-tailed fox animorph and stating what she likes. After that, she tells the students to start with the introductions and picks Jung-san to go first. The guy introduces himself normally and lets everyone know that he likes Chung-min. After Junning laughs off his direct approach, our hero introduces himself next. The counselor then tells the class to take a good look at the rabbit animorph who got a perfect score on the exams. Some students start gossiping about him, wondering if he got into the university with just his exam scores. However, the protagonist decides to ignore all the bad talk about him. When the students are done introducing themselves, they move on to selecting a class representative. Junning explains how all of them are special and says that she has selected 4 silver rank students to be candidates. They are Zhenzhen, Linqiu, Ouyangqian, and Sima Yan. She calls them out and gives each person 2 minutes to speak and try to win the votes of their colleagues. Sima Yan, who's an eagle animorph, decides to speak first. He introduces himself first with the usual formalities. Then he tells them that he's been a class representative since his elementary school days, and kindly asks for their votes. However, some people aren't impressed by his speech. The protagonist goes next, but he doesn't look very enthusiastic about it. He outrightly tells everyone he doesn't want the position and persuades them to vote for Zhenzhen instead. The counselor thinks he's just a troublemaker, but calmly gives the microphone to Zhenzhen. The high school goddess just asks everyone to vote for her and hands back the mic. As expected, her friends are all cheering for her. After that, the microphone goes to the last person, Ouyangqian. The girl sees how popular Zhenzhen is but doesn't feel threatened by her. As she walks to the center of the stage, all the guys can't help but stare at her. She introduces herself with her charming looks and kindly asks everyone to give her all their votes. As the whole crowd goes wild, our hero sees that Qian and Zhenzhen are complete opposites. Later on, the counselor finishes counting the votes and is quite surprised at the results. She teases the students for a bit before announcing Zhenzhen as the winner. Qian comes in second place as the vice representative, which makes her ready to kill anyone who didn't vote for her. With the votes settled, Junning decides to move on to the matter of their military training. She tells them that the training is very strict and they'll be expelled if they miss it. Their instructors are soldiers from the Vermilion Bird Squad with real battle experience. The protagonist then asks if the Vermilion Bird Squad is supposed to be famous, which leaves Sima Yan shocked. Qian explains that the squad is the only aerial squad in the country. At the same time, she's thinking of how to get close to our hero after seeing his good looks. She starts telling him about other squads while trying to get close to him, but the protagonist is lost in deep thoughts. Considering he has skills relating to mana beasts, he feels he can get a mount as well. When the training day comes, the students gather on the training grounds. There, Chungmin is talking with Zhang San about how he has lost some weight. The protagonist is jealous of them and wishes he could be in the same situation with his crush. Suddenly, they notice feathers falling from the sky. A large eagle approaches them, and on top they see an awakener ordering it to descend. As the bird reaches the ground, the guy gets off and signals the start of the training session. The guy introduces himself as Lin Chong, the chief instructor for their training. He quickly lets them know that they're all a bunch of spoiled brats who don't know the cruelty of the world. Despite that, he tells them that the instructors behind him will begin training all of them like soldiers. One of the instructors walks up to the protagonist and introduces himself as Qin Ming. Our hero goes ahead to make fun of both the guy's name and the chief instructor's name. Seeing how full of energy the students are, Qin Ming decides to teach them a lesson with the first task. He tells them to start by running 10 laps around the field, and no one is allowed to use mana. This quickly wipes the smile off their faces because they can't believe how brutal this first task is. The students quickly get on the field and start running while their instructor watches over them. As he expects, some students start falling off after running just 5 laps. He takes note of how everyone is doing, but the protagonist seems to pique his interest after seeing how relaxed he is. Qin Ming doesn't understand how Lin Qiu is staying ahead of the group despite being a useless animorph. Even Zhenjin and Qian are getting pretty exhausted already. Our hero is worried that his crush can't really keep up for much longer. He decides to fall back and lend her a helping hand around the tracks. However, Zhenjin refuses his offer and tells him to go ahead. On the other hand, Qian seizes the opportunity to get close to the protagonist. Still, our hero isn't interested in her, and Zhenjin seems ready to send the girl to the afterlife. Lin Qiu continues running and tells Zhenjin to let him know if she needs any help. By the 9th lap, Sima Yan looks like he's about to drop, but his pride won't let him lose to our hero. Despite the fact that Yan uses all his strength to stay ahead, our hero plays it safe in order not to show off his skills. Lin Qiu then notices that his fitness level is a lot higher than his fellow students. On the other hand, Yan feels insulted by the protagonist, who isn't even stressing himself to keep up. As they get closer to the finish line, the guy is determined not to lose. He bursts forward with all his strength, leaving the protagonist quite confused. The hero is only concerned about taking second place, so he doesn't understand why Sima Yan is trying so hard to win. He tries his best to remain close behind him, but Yan isn't having it. The guy bursts forward with all his strength but sadly doesn't see a rock in the way. He trips and falls, causing our hero to take first place. As the guy lies in defeat, he wonders why he did all that just to come in second place. The instructor congratulates Lin Qiu and remarks that the 10 laps didn't seem difficult for him. The protagonist panics and starts pretending that his whole body aches, but he does an awful job at it. Qin Ming decides to keep an eye on him, which leaves our hero with little room to keep a low profile. Our boy puts all the blame on Yan and calls him a pathetic loser. On the other hand, Yan says the only reason he lost is because he tripped. He still hasn't realized that our hero was holding back. When the hero calls him a trash loser, Yan reminds him that rabbits are nothing but food for eagles. But our hero tells him that he knows nothing. As the remaining students finish up their laps, the instructor gathers everyone. With a rough evaluation of his students, he tells them to start doing a set of 100 push-ups for 5 sets. When the students hear this, they start to think their instructor is nothing but a cruel demon. Qin Ming tells them to start immediately and to keep count so that he can hear them. As the students get into position, they are warned not to skip anything, or they'll be given an extra set. Sima Yan feels he'll be able to win this task since push-ups are part of his regular training. However, he gets crushed when he sees our hero doing push-ups at an inhuman speed. Lin Qiu thinks there's no need for him to hide his strength any longer, so he might as well go all out. The instructor sees how impressive our boy is and decides to keep a closer eye on him. The students are completely exhausted when they finally finish their sets. They all complain about their instructor being a demon, and how they can barely move after that intense session. Qin Ming gives his students 2 hours to rest before they move on to their afternoon session. Seeing how depressed they are, he decides to give them a chance. He'll reduce his power to their level, and if someone can beat him, the person gets to skip training for the month. Sima Yan then asks the instructor if he's positive about restraining his power level. When the man confirms it, Yan accepts the challenge. The protagonist asks if they're allowed to use weapons, and the instructor agrees. When he mentions that he wants to use a killer weapon, The instructor reminds him that guns are not allowed. Our boy might just be crazy enough to pull a stunt like that. However, he lets the man know that he plans to use a spear. After that, they leave to run later for the challenge. Meanwhile, in the observation room, the vice principal tells Lin Chong that our hero is a promising student currently. After hearing about how he fought the old man, the chief instructor becomes more interested in seeing Lin Chu for himself. After that, he guarantees the old man that he will complete the mission given to him. When Lu Jin tells him to get his scar healed, the chief instructor says that he won't until he pays back the culprit. The scar is a reminder of the pain he experienced at that time. The old man is worried about him and hopes that he finds the culprit soon enough. On his way out, Lin Chong tells the vice principal that he has found some clues and it won't be long before he exacts his revenge. When the time for the afternoon session comes, we see our hero searching for something. When Jung-sun approaches and asks what he's doing, Lin Chu says that he's looking for an appropriate weapon. The hero recalls that he broke the last weapon that was given to him. Suddenly, Zhaoxi appears out of nowhere with a weapon in his hand. The guy hands the spear to the protagonist and tells him to use it. After seeing how awesome the weapon is, he thanks Jang-san for the gift. His friend as well is glad that he likes the spear. They head back to the training grounds where their instructor is about to take on the first challenger. Sima Yan walks up to the instructor as the first challenger. He states that he is an eagle animorph and wishes his foe a good fight. Qinming recalls sparring with these types of animorphs and asks his opponent to transform before they start the fight. Yan quickly activates his ability, morphing his hands into majestic wings. From there, he takes to the skies and comes hurling down with a powerful slash attack. Meanwhile, the protagonist thinks the guy looks so cool while being able to fly and attack. The instructor hardens his body with metal and blocks the guy's attack. Feeling frustrated, Yan tries a different attack, but it still gets blocked by the instructor. On the other hand, our hero sees that the instructor's confidence comes from his rare metallic defensive abilities. As the dust clears, the Eagle Boy sees that his foe is completely unharmed. Qinming sees that the guy is almost out of mana and asks if he'll admit defeat. With no other choice, Sima Yan sadly admits defeat. When the instructor calls for the next challenger, Chen walks up to take him on. Qinming takes his stance and signals for the fight to begin. The girl shoots out a fireball, but the instructor is confused as to why the attack is slow and less powerful. He then decides to rush forward to take the offensive approach. He walks right into the girl's trap, and Chen starts hurling a barrage of fireballs at him. The instructor is caught off guard but still manages to put up his defenses, protecting himself. On the other hand, the girl charges up another spell and unleashes a huge fire tornado, nearly turning the instructor into a barbecue. As the raging fires keep coming towards him, the instructor puts up a defensive barrier, but he can't endure the flames for long. Qian continues to put the pressure on him regardless. With no other choice, she admits defeat after exhausting her mana. Meanwhile, Qinming acknowledges the girl and her overwhelming strength. Next up, Zhenjin approaches the instructor to take him on. She asks if he needs to rest before they start, but he lets her know that he has enough mana reserves. On the instructor's signal to begin, Zhenjin conjures an ice arrow and fires it at him. The man manages to block the attack, but he sees more ice projectiles heading toward him. He is quickly overwhelmed by the projectiles and sees no other way out than to turn his whole body into metal. Whenever he tries to get close to his foe, she fires the frost arrow at him, making things very difficult. Meanwhile, our hero is praising his crush for being so astounding. Eventually, Zhenjin admits defeat because she exhausted her mana, causing the instructor to survive by a thin thread. When the man asks for any more challengers, the protagonist raises his hand to take the stage. Lin Kyo asks the instructor if he needs to rest, considering how exhausting his last battle was. However, the man tells him that it's all right because he can recover swiftly. The chief instructor shows up and tells Qinmeng to rest and give it his all. The man asks Lin Chong if he's sure, and the chief instructor assures him of it. Meanwhile, the other students seem concerned about this match because they know their instructor has been holding back. While the guy gets some rest, the chief instructor heads over to the protagonist. Lin Chong confirms that the vice principal told him everything about the hero. However, he is surprised when our boy mentions his spatial abilities. Lin Q tries to play it off, but the chief instructor feels his skills might be helpful to him. Lin Chong then tells the hero to beat up the instructor really well. He tells them that the loser of their match will have to do 500 push-ups, but this doesn't faze Qinming. On the other hand, our hero's plans of keeping a low profile are completely ruined because he has to go all out right now. As the instructor powers up, he tells the protagonist to go ahead and morph. However, the hero tells the man that he doesn't need to, which leaves the instructor confused. The instructor feels he's being looked down on because it doesn't make sense for an animorph to be fine without morphing. He then starts the battle by launching his spear at our hero. Our hero is unfazed by the instructor's attacks because he sees that the man has no true skills with a spear. He easily defends against the attacks, but he still needs to find a suitable opening to land his own attack. As they clash, he breaks the instructor's spear and sends him flying away. The man crashes to the ground and lies there in defeat while the other students stare in amazement. Lin Chong sees that the principal was right about our hero's strength. Zhenjin also notices that he has gotten to a level of strength that she may not be able to pass. Regardless, she cheers him on while being glad in the fact that she has him as a friend. The other students start cheering him on as well, but our hero starts to feel disgusted by what's happening. While he faces his fans, the instructor gets back up to his feet. Qinming then conjures a set of daggers and says that these are the weapons he's comfortable with. But the protagonist just goes ahead to mock his skills with the spear, making the man look like a fool. On the other hand, Lin Chong sees that the instructor is becoming serious and highlights that the spear and dagger both have their ups and downs. He ponders how the fighters are now wielding weapons that excel in opposite styles of combat. As our hero continues his battle, he takes note of the good side of being a Gold Awakener. The instructor then notices that his foe is distracted and charges in. The protagonist sees this and quickly splits his spear, allowing him to block the attack. While the instructor is caught off guard, the hero prepares to strike him down. Qinming quickly defends himself and tries his best not to humiliate himself as well. Regardless, the protagonist's attack sends him flying through the air, leaving the audience completely baffled. The instructor manages to stick his landing and sees that our hero's strength is on the same level as his. Meanwhile, our hero finds the fight exhausting and can't wait to get it over with. The two of them somehow read each other's minds, and the hero asks if they should end their match as a draw. They agree on it, and the protagonist thanks the instructor for holding back all along. However, Qinming still gives our hero the victory and allows him to skip the training. Upon hearing this, Lin Chu gets really excited and decides to take some time off. On the other hand, his classmates can't deny how amazing and impressive he is. Qinming reminds the other students to continue with their training, which completely ruins their mood. As he drags off Jiangsan, our hero wishes his roommate all the best. Lin Chong then walks up to the protagonist, who wonders what the chief instructor wants. The dude then asks him to go on a walk together. When he confirms that it's just the two of them, our hero starts thinking of stupid things. However, the guy says that he was planning to take the protagonist on a flight. When our hero mentions the guy's eagle, Lin Chong is shocked that he knows about mana beasts. Lin Qiu then tells him that he learned about mana beasts from someone called Mei Jiren. Lin Chong's eagle lands close to them, and they get ready to take a ride. Looking at the majestic eagle, Lin Chong asks the protagonist what he thinks about them, and Lin Qiu tells the guy to correct him if he is wrong. Our hero starts to narrate how the beasts grew up in the army and how they hatched, leaving the chief instructor shocked. He suddenly tells the guy that the storm eagles are a waste in their hands. Lin Chong feels insulted by these words and wonders why he would say that. The hero then says that there's a problem with the way the eagles are bred. He mentions that the ones that are bred are inferior to those found in dungeons. While the chief instructor remains shocked, the protagonist also mentions how the bred storm eagles have a shorter lifespan than the ones found in dungeons. Completely taken aback by the hero's observation skills, the chief instructor asks how he knows all this. Lin Qiu says it's all thanks to Mei Jiren, but in actuality, it's thanks to the feeding skill he got earlier. When he confirms that he can solve these breeding issues, Lin Chong decides to take him along. The protagonist is worried about his classes, but the chief instructor assures him that the vice principal will be notified. Lin Chong then calls the old man and asks for permission to take our hero for a few days. After that, the chief instructor tells our boy that he can't refuse, or else he'll be marked absent and expelled. With no other choice, he gets on the eagle with the guy. His sad expression changes when he sees that they're flying, and he starts screaming for help. Sadly, no one hears the loser screaming. Moments later, they arrive above the Vermilion Bird Squad's secret base. As they get off the eagle, the protagonist marvels at how amazing the base looks. The chief of staff, Zhen Yu-young, approaches them and asks why the chief instructor is back so soon. Lin Chong quickly shows him our hero and describes him as a precious treasure. Meanwhile, the protagonist is completely confused as to what's going on. The chief instructor then tells Yu-young that he'll understand our hero's presence once they meet their team leader, but the guy declines. After that, he heads over to the logistics base with the protagonist. After walking along a long bridge, our hero is confused when they stop in front of a huge rock wall. He wonders if the team leader is a monkey that's going to jump out and surprise them. However, Lin Chong uses a terminal to reveal a secret door behind the large boulder. Our hero is surprised to see such marvelous technology before him. On the other hand, Lin Chong tells him that there are more surprises waiting inside. When they enter inside, the protagonist is met with a very high-tech lab. The lab is filled with scientists who are attending to different species of flying beasts. The space alone is so large that it may as well be the size of an entire mountain. The chief instructor then asks the hero if he is impressed with the size of the logistics base. Lin Qiu then turns his attention to a griffin and says that the food it's being fed might kill it. The instructor quickly drags him away after seeing how he has called out some errors. They get to a door where the guy tells the hero that there's a psycho who's immersed in his research there. Rather than knock on the door, Lin Chong kicks the door down like a deranged fool. While trying to get through the dust, Lin Qiu asks the guy if there wasn't a better way to enter the place. As the dust clears, they see a blonde-haired girl who the instructor refers to as team leader Shen Xing. Lin Chong mentions that the girl is a gold-ranked demon awakener. Shen Xing finally turns back and notices their presence in the room. Meanwhile, our hero wonders just what a demon awakener is. The instructor tells him that these awakeners are rare, just like his spatial type abilities. That's when our hero realizes that the instructor knew about his ability all along. Lin Chong then tells him to hide while he wakes up Shen Xing from her deep thoughts. He says the girl usually enters her demon form when her thoughts are disturbed, and it's quite hard to beat her. As soon as he taps her shoulder, the team leader grabs her pistols and starts shooting sporadically. The guy manages to dodge the bullets, but it looks like Shen Xing has lost her mind. Our hero watches the fight from a safe spot and notices when the team leader runs out of bullets. However, a demonic aura starts to surround her, and frightening voices can be heard as well. Her nails grow into sharp fangs, and she also grows horns and a tail. With her demon showers, she charges straight at Lin Chong, but he erects a large wall to protect himself. Regardless, it's not enough to keep the deranged, demonic girl from shattering it. The chief instructor then reinforces himself with layers of defenses, but he is still being pushed back by the team leader. He then tells our hero to go get some help because he can't hold off the girl any longer. The protagonist quickly runs off to find a way to help the chief instructor. He comes across a computer showing the parameters for hatching beasts known as flamezors. However, he sees that these parameters will only make the beasts lack in a lot of areas. The chief instructor urges him again to go get help instead of standing around. Regardless, the protagonist then tells him that there's an issue with the parameters, which catches the team leader's attention as well. She becomes even more interested when he says he knows how to hatch the beasts properly. Upon hearing this, her demonic form fades away, and she asks the hero if he's sure about it. While Lin Qiu is shocked to see her back, she tells him that she hasn't been able to figure out how to hatch the eggs. Meanwhile, the chief instructor regrets wasting all his time fighting her to wake her up. He then tells Shen Xing that our hero is an expert on mana beasts. However, she sees the hero as a little kid and underestimates his skills. When our hero hears this, he becomes very upset about being looked down on. He then places a notepad on the table and begins to tell the team leader why the parameters for the flamezors are wrong. He explains why the beasts need very high temperatures for the eggs to hatch. Also, the eggs need mana pearls around them to help with the process. He even calls Shen Xing out for attempting to suffocate the creatures. She tells him that the process of placing mana pearls around the eggs is new to her. Our hero then explains how dungeons have more mana than the outside world. This obviously makes sense to the girl, and she finally sees how amazing our boy is. The team leader quickly drags him off so he can help her hatch the eggs together. Lin Qiu then tells her that there's something more important than hatching baby eggs. He then drags her off quickly to somewhere else. The scientists at the lab turn around when he calls their attention. After introducing himself, he tells them that he's going to give some advice. He starts by telling the researchers that there are a lot of mistakes in their work. However, they feel insulted by his words and claim to be experts in the field. The chief instructor then tells them to be calm because they're disgracing themselves. Realizing that words alone aren't enough, our hero decides to prove his words with actions. He tells the researchers to bring a storm eagle so he can experiment on it. However, the men are still reluctant to cooperate with him. Seeing that the scientists aren't budging, Lin Chong decides to bring in his own storm eagle for the experiment. He assures the researchers that he believes in the protagonist when they seem worried. After that, Lin Chong's storm eagle is brought into the lab. The protagonist notices the eagle has a weird nickname, but the chief instructor doesn't see anything wrong. While the scientist still tries to dissuade Lin Chong, our hero tells him to bring a healer and some other tools. The instructor tells him that the scientist is a healer and the other tools are ready. Our hero then sets off to start his work, but the researcher is still reluctant to follow him. Thanks to his taming skills, the protagonist is able to pet the storm eagle, making it feel safe. The chief instructor is shocked to see his precious beast actually listening to someone else. The protagonist then makes the beast lie down. After that, he climbs on top of it with the researcher. He asks the guy for the anesthetic, which is handed over to him. He then gets ready to inject the beast. Lin Chong is worried about the whole thing because the protagonist is still a student. His worry grows more when Lin Qiu asks for hot water to be poured around the eagle's stomach. Luckily, he sees that our hero is just plucking the feathers. After that, our boy asks for a scalpel. The scientist waits for Lin Chong to give the go-ahead, but the guy still looks anxious. The protagonist then assures him that he won't let him down. After that, the instructor tells them to hand over the surgical blades. The protagonist picks up the blade and starts the operation. As he cuts open the beast, he is completely shocked at what he finds. There, he sees a huge layer of fat sticking out. He decides to toss it all out with the researcher's help. After that, he tells the guy to quickly use his healing skills on the beast. The hero jumps off the beast and tells the chief instructor that storm eagles don't need so much fat. He tells the guy that the beast will be able to conceive better and grow stronger with less fat. Since the beasts are currently being fed a lot of fatty meat, the hero advises the instructor to switch to beef and lamb as a better option. Lin Chong then waits to see if his storm eagle is doing all right, and if not, he's ready to send our hero to his maker. Moments later, the storm eagle's eyes spark open, and it seems upset about its missing feathers. However, it emits a powerful aura as it manages to achieve a breakthrough. The guys in the room, especially Lin Chong, are all in shock when they see the eagle achieve the platinum rank. The protagonist then tells the chief instructor that his eagle wants to take him for a ride. The instructor commends the hero's work, and the researcher apologizes for doubting him earlier. After that, our hero decides to point out some other issues and assures them that the Vermilion Bird Squad will grow in strength once these issues are rectified. As he talks with the researcher, Shen Xing keeps her eyes on him. Later on, the chief instructor shows our hero to the guest room where he can rest. Lin Qiu then gets into bed to take his rest after an exhausting day. As he turns to sleep, he notices a strange hand touching him. He turns around to see the lovely team leader beside his bed. Feeling completely shocked, he asks the team leader what she's doing in his room. She then pulls out a book and tells him to check it out. Shen Xin tells the protagonist that the flame source hatched, which leaves him baffled. She then says that she used a gold rank mana pearl for the hatching process. The hero turns over to ignore her, but she tells him that she has something else to discuss with him. With a charming voice, she tells our boy that she wants him to tutor her on mana beasts. He tries to tell her that he's still a student, but the team leader doesn't care about that. With no other choice, our hero accepts, and she offers to bow to him. However, he kicks her out of the room and offers to start teaching her the next day. The next morning, our hero leaves his room with heavy eye bags, showing that he barely slept. While thinking about what to do for the day, Shen Xing appears out of nowhere and greets him. She immediately asks for her lesson of the day, to which our hero agrees. He suggests that she should ask questions since he doesn't know how to go about teaching her. The team leader then tells him that the frostwing eggs didn't hatch and asks what her error is. The protagonist tells her to lower the temperature in the incubation chamber, and she asks for a reason. However, our hero is already tired of the endless questions. As they enter the lab, the other researchers are happy to see the hero. In seconds, they swarm him with different questions and urgent requests. Lin Qiu gets sick of it and tells them to all line up and wait. Later on, he finally lies on his bed to get some rest. His rest is cut short when the alarms beep and everyone is asked to gather outside. With a worried look on his face, he wonders if something has gone wrong. He meets up with Shen Xing outside and asks her what the situation is. She tells him that their captain, who just returned, rang the alarm to make an announcement. There, he sees the captain of the Vermilion Squad, Chao Gai, who's a Diamond 8-star animorph. The captain tells them that Lin ran into a criminal organization in their country. After tailing them for a while, the chief instructor was able to find their hideout. Due to this, Chao Gai tells his comrades that 10 members will be selected to assist Lin Chong. As a lot of people offer to help out, the captain mentions that Lin Qiu has been requested for the operation. Our hero then reveals himself to the captain of the squad. Shen Xing tells the captain that the protagonist is an expert who the chief instructor brought. She starts praising our hero and talking about all his deeds since he arrived. Chao Gai commends the protagonist on his deeds, but doesn't feel comfortable sending him on such a dangerous mission. However, the hero freely volunteers and vows to take responsibility for his actions. The captain is still hesitant, but the team leader offers to protect our hero on the mission. Chao Gai then warns the hero about losing his life during the mission, but our boy is determined to help. After that, the captain hands him some papers with information and tells him to go through them before they depart. He turns to address the rest of the squad, while our hero looks very excited about the mission. Moments later, Lin Qiu sets out on a storm eagle with team leader Shen. From what he read, their target is the Tiger mercenary group known for all kinds of heinous crimes. However, Shen Xing highlights that there may be casualties if they attack the group because they stay in a populated area. She also mentions that the group has an explosives expert, and she wishes they had a spatial awakener. So the plot armor thickens for our boy. Lin Qiu now understands why the chief instructor requested him. The team leader's phone beeps and she says that they're almost at Lin Chong's location. By evening, they arrive at the border town woods where the chief instructor is waiting. Lin Chong tells them that he unexpectedly ran into their target, Wu Kei, on his way back with his eagle. The protagonist then asks why he took so long to contact them. The chief instructor explains that the criminal is very cautious and he never got time to rest while tailing the guy. However, the criminal didn't notice him and finally returned to the hideout. Lin Chong then points out the hotel being used as a hideout by the criminal group. He tells the hero not to stare too much because the enemies could be watching. The team decides to rest and take turns keeping watch while they prepare for the upcoming battle. The next morning, Shen says she hasn't noticed anything major aside from Wu Kei going to get breakfast. Seeing how exhausted the chief instructor is, the hero worries about him and wonders how long his recovery will take. He then suggests to Shen that they go up close to try and monitor the criminal group. She's worried about not having a change of clothes, but our hero pops out some clothes from his spatial dimension. Of course, this freaks out Shen Xing, and she wonders how the hell he pulled them out. She runs off with the clothes to quickly get changed. Later on, as they walk through the streets, all the guys can't help but stare at her. Our hero tells her not to hold him so tightly, but she's taking the role quite seriously. When they get to their destination, Shen Xing tells him that she wants something. Meanwhile, our hero uses his zoom skill to get a closer look at the hideout. There, he sees a goon holding a sniper rifle from the window. When he notices the guy looking at him, he moves to protect team leader Shen. He tells her to act calmly because the criminals are closely observing the area. Shen Xing continues to act out her role, and the hero suggests they get a higher point to observe the area. They head into a hotel and ask for a room on the 3rd floor, but the whole floor has been booked. The lady tells them the 4th floor is booked and asks Shen Xing for her ID. The hero begs the receptionist to make an exception this one time, but she can't because of their policies. However, Lin Q slams some money on the table, and the lady quickly accepts. So much for policies. The receptionist gives them the key card for the room, and they head off. When they get into the room, they start setting up their equipment to eavesdrop on the enemy. At first, they don't hear anything, but when they listen closely, they hear some people discussing. However, Shen Xing can't figure out the language the people are speaking in. Fortunately, our hero has a language proficiency skill. Later on, Shen asks the protagonist what the people are talking about. He tells her that the guys were speaking Fulani, and he caught 3 key points in their conversation. Firstly, he says the goons were hired to come there. And secondly, they are here to receive an item and take it out of the country. Lastly, the criminal group has prepared explosive countermeasures, which means the hero's team needs to capture them quickly. The team leader decides to report the matter quickly, while our hero notices that the group is on a phone call. One of the goons confirms that the item has been gotten and assures the caller that they'll get it out. After that, he tells his subordinates that the item will arrive the next day. The protagonist quickly relays the information to the team leader. Suddenly, Shen Xing gets a call from Captain Chao Gai. He tells them that they've been swindled and have lost the item they were protecting. The protagonist wonders if this lost item has something to do with the mercenary group. He then informs the captain of the information he heard from the Tiger group. However, Captain Chao Gai says that his target isn't headed in the hero's direction. He feels the group will do something crazy if they know they've been found, but he decides to send some backup. Shen Xing then asks about the identity of the item that was stolen. The captain tells her that it's the final design of the Awakener weapons left behind by the late Mr. Zhang Hong. The team leader is surprised to hear that Zhang was able to develop the Awakener weapons. After hearing how important this research item is, our hero and Shen Xing vow to complete their mission. Shen then explains that the Awakener weapons are designed to be imbued with mana to improve their damage. However, she feels sad that Zhang is not there to see his works come to life. The hero then tells her that they have to retrieve this item by any means necessary. Later, they meet up with the chief instructor and tell him what they've learned. Shen Xing suggests that they work together with the fire department to evacuate civilians before it's too late. Meanwhile, our hero goes ahead to draw his skill for the day. He ends up getting a couple of E-rank skills involving vehicles, but he wishes he had better luck and got something more useful. As if it's not bad enough, he gets a ventriloquism skill that allows him to imitate any sound. He suddenly sees that it's not completely useless and proceeds to ask Lin Chong a question. He asks about the potential location of the explosives, to which the chief instructor says that the criminals will be keeping it nearby. With that, our hero comes up with a plan for the mission. With a devilish expression, he tells the team that they'll set the place on fire. Shen thinks he's crazy, but Lin Chong tells our hero to keep explaining his idea. Lin Kyo tells them that the criminals wouldn't take the explosives once they see the building is on fire. He tells the chief instructor to disguise himself as police with some others and take the Tiger group while pretending to protect foreigners. However, the chief instructor asks how they'll retrieve the data once they eliminate the group. Lin Kyo then tells him to get Buck Tiger's phone or SIM card. With this, he can impersonate the guy and set up a meeting with their contact. Lin Chong warns that the contact will know Buck Tiger's voice, but the hero assures him that he can deceive them and retrieve the data. Shen Xing is really impressed that the protagonist is able to imitate voices. The hero also assures the chief instructor that he can teleport the explosives away before they explode. Seeing that this is the best option, Lin Chong tells his team that the operation will start at night. While they wait, the hero and Shen Xing head to the hotel room to keep eavesdropping. The protagonist is bored and tired of listening to whatever the enemy is doing. When Shen Xing hears a commotion, the hero tells her that the guys downstairs are just playing poker. He decides to get some rest while she continues to listen to the enemy group. After dozing off for a while, our boy suddenly wakes up in the laps of the team leader, Shen. With him awake, she tells him to get ready, but Lin Qiu asks her why she didn't wake him up earlier. She tells him that she just wanted to get more rest. Our hero is shocked when he hears this and sees that the girl is concerned for him. He tells her to get the walkie-talkie and wait to move on Captain Lin Chong's command. Moments later, a raging fire begins to sweep through the building. The Tiger group hears the hotel staff telling people to remain calm and evacuate. One of the guys tells the others that the hotel is on fire. Seeing that they have a bunch of explosives, their leader decides that they need to evacuate. He tells the blonde-haired guy with an eye patch to stop wasting time and move quickly. However, the guy gets a crazy idea to do something with the explosives. Like the deranged fool he is, he arms the explosives and tosses the timer into the room as he leaves. Meanwhile, the fire department is trying to put out the fire from outside. As the Tiger criminal group runs out of the building, the protagonist signals to his comrades when he sees them. The goons enter a van, and Lin Chong tells the hero to get to the explosives quickly. Lin Qiu heads off to the third floor with the demon girl by his side. They get to Buck Tiger's room, where our hero starts putting the explosives in his pocket dimension. However, he quickly realizes that the bombs have been armed. He asks Shen Xing if she can defuse bombs, but sadly she can't. He tells her that the criminals activated a bomb, and there are only 3 minutes left. As our hero tries to figure out something, the demon girl has already lost hope and doesn't mind going to heaven with him. However, the word heaven gives him an idea. He activates his teleportation door, which now has an increased range thanks to his rank. As she drags the demon girl along, he asks her if she's fond of fireworks. From the other side of the portal, they arrive on the rooftop of the building. The demon girl is impressed by such an amazing ability from our hero. Meanwhile, the protagonist makes some calculations to determine the best time to act. He concludes on a time frame of 17 seconds to toss the bomb. With 30 seconds left, he asks Shen Xing to throw him up very high. She wonders if he'll be all right, and he assures her not to worry. She then swings him around with her brute strength and tosses the hero into the air. Lin Qiu sees himself flying at an incredible speed, thanks to the demon girl's strength. With his speed slowing down, he opens his portal and uses it to keep going higher into the sky. With only a few seconds left, he opens the last portal and tosses the bomb inside like a Pokemon ball. As he falls back down, he says the last portal will teleport the bomb much further. The explosion then goes off in the sky like fireworks. Shen Xing admires the pretty bright lights with so much joy. However, the protagonist calls her attention and asks her to catch him at the edge of the roof. Thanks to the blast from the explosion, he's falling at an incredible speed and might be meeting his maker soon. He turns and sees that the demon girl will not make it in time, so he accepts his end. Regardless, Shen Xing bursts forward and tosses herself off the roof to catch him. She manages to grab his leg while holding on to the edge of the rooftop. She slams him back on the roof, nearly shattering his spine. But at least he is saved. The protagonist asks for some time to recover his mana, but the demon girl assumes he's fine since he's moving well. He still insists on recovering, and Shen Xing tells him that using a mana pearl is the best way for him to recover. She hands him a gold rank mana pearl, which he absorbs quickly. With his mana fully restored, the protagonist is ready to take on the mercenaries. Meanwhile, the enemy group is still being driven away by the chief instructor. He hears the explosion and wonders if the hero and Shen Xing are all right. While he's lost in thought, one of the mercenaries asks him where they're going. Lin Chong tells him that there is a minor issue and that they'll soon arrive at their destination. The guy then tells his comrades to prepare for battle because he senses something off. The chief instructor arrives at the destination, hoping that his comrades are ready to make a move. He quickly attacks the guy with an eye patch. By the time the mercenaries realize he's not a cop, one of them is already dead. He leaves the car after dealing with the goon, only to see the whole area up in flames. He sees that the battle has already begun and the enemy has only lost the weakest of their group. His female subordinate then tells him that something isn't right. She's revealed to be a healer, and she tells him that there's poison gas in the air preventing her from using her mana. He gets discovered by the other mercenaries, and the one responsible for the poison reveals himself. The guy reveals that the poison will affect all those around, and he has also activated a deadly toxin. Instantly, the chief instructor starts to feel the deadly effects of the toxin affecting his body. Aside from him, he also notices that the toxin is affecting his comrades even more. The crook asks for his identity, and Lin Chong introduces himself to the guy. The guy reveals that he knows about the chief instructor, especially where his scar came from. Upon hearing this, the chief instructor demands to know where the person is. However, the criminal unleashes a rhino animorph to put an end to the instructor's life. Without delay, the rhino charges forward to destroy his target. The chief instructor uses his earth abilities to reinforce his hands. He then grabs the rhino's horn and lifts it into the air with all his strength. He tosses the beast aside, sending it crashing into the nearby trees. The criminal tends to his beloved Animorph, while he tells his comrades to attack the Vermilion squad members. The deputy commander, Mark Roos, uses his wind abilities to strike the team. However, Lin Chong is able to protect his comrades with a rock wall. While doing that, the rhino charges straight back at him. He sets up a defensive barrier to protect both himself and the rest of his lackeys. The rest of the squad members urge their captain to run and save himself, but Lin Chong is ready to sacrifice his life for them. As he fends off the rhino, the Wind Awakener comes from behind to finish him off. The guy attacks with a powerful gust of wind, while his comrade watches the battle. Lin Chong is grazed by the attack, but he stands his ground and continues to defend his people. The attacks eventually overwhelm him, and his shield drops. At that moment, the culprit behind the toxin charges forward to finish off the instructor. Lin Chong accepts his fate and regrets not being able to save his subordinates. Just as the mercenary is about to impale the captain with his blade, a car speeds into the scene and knocks the guy away. As Lin Chong tries to make sense of what happened, our hero jumps out of the vehicle with the lovely Shen Xing in his arms. He announces his presence in style and sees that the captain is still alive. Lin Chong then tells him that Wu Kei is a poison awakener, and he walked right into the guy's trap. Meanwhile, the other mercenaries are trying to tend to their wounded commander. They tell their healer, Mimiko, to heal Wu Kei while the others go to fight. The protagonist tells them to wait while he gets ready for battle as well. The mercenaries are shocked to see that the hero can understand and speak their language. However, they ignore him and charge forward to attack. Shen Xing then morphs into her demon form to face the criminals. While they are shocked by her appearance, she lunges forward to rip them to shreds. The mercenaries manage to deduce her rank as one of them raises an earth wall to defend. The demon girl is able to charge over the wall and use her sharp claws to slash the guy's hand. The other mercenaries decide to work together after seeing that a demon awakener is not to be underestimated. As the battle rages on, our hero is uncertain of who will be the victor. His attention then turns to Lin Chong and his squad members, who are in a very bad state. The female squad member tells the hero to save the captain because the poison has already done too much damage. However, he takes her hand and decides to deal with the situation quickly. While she is confused by his actions, Lin Chu starts to treat her immediately. Luckily, he was able to get a medical proficiency skill earlier. He checks her pulse and figures out how the toxin is working in her body. The girl is shocked to see that the protagonist is good with mana beasts and medicine at the same time. He simply tells her he has a wide range of hobbies while searching for something in his pocket. He then pulls out a surgical blade, causing the girl to panic and be worried. However, he urges her to relax and quickly slashes her once. He holds her hand gently while she bleeds out all the bad poison. Slowly, her vision and mana flow start returning to her, thanks to our guy's skills. The girl then urges the hero to go and treat the other squad members, but he reminds her that she's a healer who should be doing that. Moments later, we see a healer tending to Wu Kei's wounds. He recovers and wonders how long he was knocked out. Nevertheless, he is baffled when he sees members of the Vermilion squad recovering from his toxin. He doesn't understand how their healer was able to get the toxin out of her own body. He also sees that their boss is having a hard time with the ongoing fight as well. In order to save his group, he decides to release another wave of deadly toxins. As the poison spreads out, Wu Kei feels unbothered because his comrades all have antidotes for it. Shen Xing stops her fight as the poison gas gets closer to her. The mercenaries tell their healer to heal them, believing that the demon girl has been poisoned. However, they are taken aback by what they see. Like the demon she is, Shen Xing sucks up all the poison and says it's very delicious. This girl is a complete crackhead. The toxin only succeeds in empowering the damage of her claws. She walks up to Wu Kei, who is frightened and looks like he's about to wet his pants. The demon girl slaps him away, leaving the others completely scared of her power. She slowly approaches the remaining mercenaries, and all they can do is scream for their lives like pathetic wimps. As night falls, all that can be heard is the pathetic screams of the criminals as Shen Xing mops the floor with them. Even her comrades are completely scared of her. The hero is confident that the criminals will eventually surrender after taking so much damage. Lin Chong heads to report to the captain of the squad, and he reminds his people to spare Wu Kei. When the hero asks why the guy needs to be spared, Molly explains that the criminal commander might know the location of Lin Chong's sworn enemy. Lin Kyo is shocked to hear that the chief instructor has a sworn enemy. Molly explains that 8 years ago, Lin Chong had joined a mission with Wu Haiyuan, who was the captain at that time. They were tasked with bringing back a valuable item to the country. Captain Wu's unit was ambushed by a strange force on their way back, and the captain was no match for the powerful forces and the strange man. In the end, the squad members sacrificed themselves for Lin Chong to escape. That was when he got the scar on his face, and he swore to leave it as a reminder of what happened. Lin Chong kept beating himself up for what happened then, and wished he had died like the rest. Molly also says that Wu Haiyuan must feel conflicted about letting the chief instructor live. The hero can also tell that Lin Chong hasn't stopped thinking of that time. While he wonders how powerful that enemy has become, Molly sees a horrible sight. Team leader Shen ends up killing the commander and deputy commander of the Tiger mercenary group. So much for keeping an eye on her. Lin Q notices that the team leader's condition is a bit unusual. At that moment, the demon girl achieves a breakthrough and reaches the platinum rank. According to Lin Chong, once a demon awakener achieves this rank, they can retain control over their mind. She then asks her captain if she should finish off the remaining mercenaries. At their plea, he decides to bring them back for interrogation and ask them some questions. He asks them if they know how he got the scar on his face. But the healer Mimiko doesn't understand his language. The protagonist then translates for them and threatens the criminals as well. The goons don't know anything about Lin Chong's scar, and the hero relays this to him. Mimiko then tells them that Wu Kei is affected by demon poison and she can't heal him. Team leader Shen offers to wake up the guy with her demonic methods. She uses her demonic touch to remove the poison, and the guy finally wakes up. He sees the demon girl and is completely frightened. He shrivels up in a corner like a loser and begs her not to eat him. The chief instructor then asks her to take the other two criminals to a corner. After that, he starts to interrogate Wu Kei, asking what he knows about the scar on his face. The guy refuses to answer, but Lin Chong assures him that he'll be kept alive like his remaining comrades. However, the poison awakener doubts he'll be let free, considering how many crimes he has committed. The guy then asks the chief instructor to swear on his squad's name that he'll be let go once he gives the information he has. He knows the instructor and his squad are big on vows and rules, so he wants to leverage this for himself. The chief instructor then swears that no one from his squad will attack Wu Kei after the guy reveals the information. Feeling glad that Lin Chong actually made a vow, the criminal decides to be a man of his word as well. He reveals that the instructor's sworn enemy is known as Capella from M Nation, and he's a berserk awakener. The last time Wu Kei saw him, the guy was at the peak of the diamond rank. The goon says he got the information from one of Capella's underlings known as Jabari. The instructor assumes he's right, considering his investigations have all pointed at Capella. After that, he decides to let Wu Kei go free. The instructor gives the criminal the final chance to leave, but the guy wonders if his actions are worth it. The protagonist admits that there's no reason to let a scumbag like him walk free. However, the guy asks if he isn't afraid that people will find out about the vow. Our hero then reveals that he isn't part of the squad. He lunges forward to teach the goon a lesson and lands a haymaker that shatters the guy's jaw. After the guy gets knocked out, Lin Chong shows the protagonist Buck's phone. He also thanks the hero for all he's done to save their lives. After that, he asks Lin Chu about the explosion he heard. The protagonist explains that the explosives were detonated safely after criminals set them up. The only problem is that the hotel suffered a lot of losses. Once again, the chief instructor humbly thanks our hero and bows. The protagonist tells him that he isn't worthy of so much praise. Lin Chong then tells him to call him by his first name, so it doesn't look like they're so distant. After that, they head off to rest and interrogate the other two mercenaries. The next day, our hero starts to interrogate Mimiko, and she agrees to comply. She introduces herself to him and says she was taken away by Buck when her healing abilities were discovered. Shenxing calls his attention and reminds him to take the interrogation seriously. He finally focuses and tells the criminal that she'll be punished for hiding anything. Mimiko isn't sure who hired her, but she says someone from M Nation spoke with Buck when she was in the room. She says the person's code name is Great Teacher, and it seems like the person has a high position in the country. After that, Lin Chu asks her how much she was paid to partake in the mission. When she says they were offered $100 million, the hero completely loses his mind. According to her, they'll get $30 million as an initial payment, then the rest will be sent to the mercenary company's account. The hero worries that Buck is the only one who can access the account, but Mimiko reveals she also has the password. After that, the hero asks Shen Xing if there are any computer hackers around, and she tells him they have a guy known as Yang Fan. 10 minutes later, Yang Fan arrives in the interrogation room and meets Lin Chu. Our hero tells the guy to transfer all the money from the mercenary account to their own. He then tells Shen Xing to keep most of it and asks for a small share. The demon girl then agrees as a way to thank him for all his help. The hacker manages to get into the account, and they are all shocked at how much money the criminals have. However, the small change our hero is expecting turns out to be smaller than he expected. Shen Xing tries to cheer him up and suggests using her power to give him some more money. However, he refuses humbly and tells her to keep everything. She mentions that she planned to give him 10 million, and our hero's eyes light up like a deranged addict. He ends up sulking in the corner after realizing how much money he just gave up. In order to feel better, he decides to draw a skill for the day. Sadly, he ends up getting a shocking E-rank skill. The protagonist analyzes the skill and discovers that it allows him to appraise the authenticity of an item. He sees this as the perfect opportunity to make all the money he wants. He keeps daydreaming until Chong asks what he's so lost about. The chief instructor reminds him that the contact will soon reach out to them. They all gather together, and Chong tells the hero that it's all up to him. When the phone rings, Chong hands it over to Lin Chu and tells him to put it on speaker. The hero changes his voice to resemble Buck's own and communicates with the contact. The other criminals are shocked to see how well he can imitate their boss's voice. The contact then says that he'll arrive in the next 2 hours. When the call ends, the protagonist assumes the contact is a citizen of Z Nation and tells everyone to be cautious. Chong tells the other mercenaries to cooperate, or it'll be the end for them. The 2 mercenaries assure him that they'll do their own part. After a while, Shenxing sees that the contact is 20 minutes late. The protagonist asks if they should contact the guy, but Chong tells him to wait. He wonders if they got exposed, but at that moment, they get a call from the contact. The guy tells the hero that there's a delay on his end. He then reveals that the item is in locker number 35 in Suguo Supermarket. When Lin Qiu asks the guy about meeting face-to-face, the contact tells him it's better to keep things anonymous, and he ends the call. The demon girl then asks her teammates if they should go and retrieve the item. The hero disagrees with her because he thinks the enemies might be watching them. He feels it's better to keep themselves safe. Chong also wonders what else they should do about the situation. The hero then hints at using one of the mercenaries to pick up the item. 10 minutes later, at the Suguo market, the mercenary, Eto, walks into the building. As he looks over at the lockers, he recalls that the protagonist gave him this chance to redeem himself. While trying to figure out how to open the safe, a strange person bumps into him. He turns to confront the individual, but the person suddenly disappears without a trace. Eto then notices that the person dropped something on the floor. He uses the item to open the locker and retrieve the goods inside. Back at the Vienna hotel, he tells the others that he has retrieved the item. He hands over a flash drive to the protagonist. The protagonist gives the flash drive to Yang Fang, but the guy is finding it hard to decode the device. His pride is hurt, but the chief instructor tells him that their mission is a success. Now they just have to wait for reinforcements. Since the enemy thinks the files are with the mercenary, the hero suggests that they surprise the crooks. The chief instructor tells him to ask the mercenaries where the files are supposed to be delivered. Lin Qiu walks over to Mimiko, giving her an opportunity to redeem herself by cooperating. The girl also wants to have the privilege of a single cell like Eto. When the hero asks, she tells him that they were supposed to deliver the files to the coast of Jeweled City, where someone will pick it up. On the other hand, our hero is bothered that the remaining money will be lost if the deal gets cut off. He suddenly picks up Buck's phone to make a call, and Chong asks what he's doing. He tells the instructor to keep quiet because he just got an idea. On the phone, the contact tells him to deliver the item to the given coordinates. However, our hero tells the guy to transfer the rest of the payment. Even though the payment is supposed to come after the delivery, he tells the guy to transfer the cash now. The guy warns him not to be stupid, but the protagonist suddenly demands a higher payment. The contact falls for it and says he'll ask for approval from his superiors. Lin Qiu then signals to the squad captain, saying everything is okay. He hears the sound of something crashing on the phone. Then the contact tells him that the money has been transferred. After that, the guy hangs up. The hacker confirms that the money has been sent to the account. They all seem glad that they were able to get so much money and will still be able to ambush the person who's supposed to pick up the item. As Shenxing asks for the money to be transferred to her account, the hero asks about his cut. She assures him that he won't be disappointed, but our hero wants the money so that he can get married. When she hears the word wife, she offers to be his wife so he can save the money. Regardless, our hero makes it clear to her that he has someone else on his mind. The demon girl assures him that his cut won't be lower than 30 million as he expects. A few later, the reinforcements finally arrive at the scene. Surprisingly, the team sees Murong Tu, one of the 3 exalts from Z Nation, approaching them. Shenxing explains that the man is the idol of the military and is also known as the Tiger of the Army. Meanwhile, Tu praises Chong for a job well done. However, the chief instructor tells the man that he can't take all the accolades. He tells the man that the people who did the most were Lin Qiu and Shenxing. The old man commends the demon girl, who refers to him as her granduncle. He explains to her that the enemies are already at their gates, and he has no plans of letting them leave in one piece. He then asks them who exactly the protagonist is, and Shenxing offers to explain. As she explains everything to the old man, he seems quite impressed with the hero's deeds. She also tells the old man that Lin Qiu is her teacher, which makes him quite concerned. However, the man assumes this means that the protagonist has seniority over her. Just like that, he decides to take the hero as his nephew. This man definitely has some family issues. Regardless, our hero refers to him as his uncle immediately and pays his respects. Tu then gets a call from a man named Shen and asks how things are going on his side. Chong explains to the hero that Elder Shen is Xing's grandfather, who's helping them eliminate the threats at Jeweled City. They overhear the old man confirming that the enemies have been wiped out, and Tu relays the info to the team. Chong hands over the flash drive to Elder Tu. The old recalls telling Chang that his talents were as good as his. Jang was friends with the three exalts but gave up training and focused on his research. Tu honors his friend's memory, saying that his research is safe. Before he leaves, he tells the team that there are still traitors in the country who need to be discovered quickly. After that, the hero watches as the old man leaves with the two mercenaries as well. He and his team also headed back to the squad base on their mounts quickly. When they arrived, Chow Gai's actions were surprising to the protagonist. The commander asks him if he wants to join the Vermilion Bird Squad. But our hero feels the army's rules are too strict for him. Guy tries to persuade him, but our hero insists on not joining, and instead asks for a more tangible reward. The commander tells him that a first-class commendation is more honorable, but the protagonist doesn't care for it. Shenxing then tells the man that there's something more suitable for the hero. She suggests the squad's most valuable treasure, but the commander is worried that it may already be dead. The demon girl urges the commander to give the treasure to him, as opposed to giving him $30 million. He then tells her to go get the treasure, but the hero tries to stop her. However, she assures her master that the treasure is worth more than he can imagine. She shows him a strange egg, which is their squad's most prized treasure. She explains that they don't know what kind of egg it is, since it never hatched. However, the hero's robot system quickly recognizes the egg as a dragon egg. It also tells him that these creatures don't normally exist in his world. The system makes fun of the so-called dragons in the West, referring to them as mutated lizards. As the hero wonders if the egg has parents, the system tells him that it can't sense their energy signature. He decides to make the dragon his mount, but the robot tells him that hatching it won't be easy. However, Lin Q plans to use his incubation skills to hatch the egg. As Shen Xing slaps the egg, he tries to stop her from breaking it. Regardless, she tells him that even bullets can't pierce the egg. This crackhead actually tried to shoot it. Not only that, but she also used her demonic powers on it. The commander tells the hero that Xing studied the egg for 3 months, but couldn't make any progress. After that, the hero tells them that it's a dragon egg. The commander is completely shocked to hear that it's the same type of dragon spoken of in legends. Lin Kyo tells the commander that he can still have the egg if he is given the $30 million. The demon girl wonders if he's giving it up because the egg is hard to hatch. However, the hero explains that hatching the egg is easy with mana. The first way is if an exalt transfers mana to the egg, it'll hatch in 10 years. The second way the egg can be hatched is by using 2 exalt mana pearls. Xing and the commander tell him that these 2 methods will be very hard to do. Seeing no reason to take back the egg, Chow Gai tells the hero to keep it. Lin Kyo figures he can take his time to hatch the egg once he becomes an exalt. Back in his room that night, he starts transferring some mana to the egg and plans to do it every day. He suddenly gets a strange feeling and manages to break through into a 2-star silver rank awakener. After his breakthrough, he brings out a gold mana pearl and wonders if he should absorb it or use it on the egg. He decides to absorb it and says the mana will be useless to the egg anyway. After absorbing it, he achieves another breakthrough into a 3-star silver rank. With that done, he sees he needs a little more to achieve the 4-star rank. However, all he has left are some skill pearls. He puts the dragon egg into his pocket dimension, while thinking of a way to sell the skill pearls for some money. He decides to ask Chong if his squad will buy some pearls after getting some good sleep. The next morning he runs into a dilemma when he can't find his skills. He cries to Chong, telling him that his pearls are all gone. However, the chief instructor doesn't think that a thief would have been able to get into his pocket dimension. The hero thinks about it for a moment and realizes that the dragon egg must have eaten the pearls. He tries to get the egg to give him back the skill pearls, and complains about how much money he would have made. The protagonist explains to Chong that the pearls were worth a lot, and there was a frost arrow skill pearl among them. However, the chief instructor tells him to focus on the future. He reminds the hero about returning to school, but there are still a lot of squad members who have questions for him. Even Shen Xing can't wait for her master's lessons. For a brief moment, our hero wonders if it's better to take on military service instead of going back to school. With a worried look on her face, Xing asks the hero if he is leaving already. He tries to explain that he's still a freshman in school, but he doesn't understand why she's acting weird. Tears start welling up in her eyes as she tells him that he can't leave because of their research. Our hero is disappointed to see that she's more concerned about the research than him. Poor guy. However, he wonders how he can help the researchers with their work. He tells them that he can't possibly answer all their questions. He tells them that he'll write a book that will help answer all those questions in one go. While the researchers praise him, the demon girl still seems concerned about his departure. The next couple of days, our hero spent his time writing his book on mana beasts. When he was almost done, he had awakened new skills concerning nursing and caring for the beasts. He finished the book, and copies were made for everyone in the Vermilion squad. Back in his room at night, Xing is sulking in a corner while our hero packs up his stuff. He tells her that he'll be leaving the next day to resume his classes. She then asks him how he was able to gain so much knowledge on mana beasts at such a young age. He tells her he has a master, Mei Jaren, who taught him all he knows. However, Xing deduces that the name literally means, "this person doesn't exist." She asks if he's trying to fool him, but he tells her she's overthinking it. After that, she thanks him for all the help and knowledge he has given to her squad. She also commends him on helping with the Awakener weapons as well. Xing tells her master to come visit whenever he has the time. The next morning, Lin Chu tries to leave quietly before everyone wakes up. He flips the whole room in search of his headphones, but he can't find them. He decides to leave without it. When he gets outside, he sees Captain Chao Gai standing with his squad members. The captain commands his soldiers to stand at attention, leaving the hero surprised. The squad salutes Lin Chu as he leaves. The whole thing shocks him, leaving him with some mixed feelings. However, he salutes them back before heading off to join Chong on the Storm Eagle. The captain still regrets that he wasn't able to recruit the hero into his squad. Xing then tells him that the Vermilion squad probably doesn't suit the hero. As he flies off in the distance, she also says that the squad might have limited his growth. Later on, he arrives at the university, and Chong reveals that he was the one who told the squad members about his early departure. However, our hero is very upset about this. Regardless, the chief instructor explains that he has as much prestige as the squad's captain. He then tells the hero to come to the instructor's dorm to tell Qin Ming all that happened, but the protagonist prefers to go see his classmates rather than the vice principal. Later on, he heads to his dormitory room and hears Zhang San complaining about him knocking so early. When he goes in, he sees a slim guy who resembles the fat healer. However, he has no idea who the person is. He assumes he's in the wrong room, but Zhang San reveals that he is actually the one. I guess the military training took a toll on him. His other roommate explains that Zhang San kept getting slimmer during the military training. However, the protagonist still finds it hard to believe that the fatso got like this in a month. His friend tells him that he has become a celebrity at the university since he left. The guy then tells Lin Q that the summary presentation will soon be starting, and our hero wonders if he'll get to see his crush. The scene shifts to the sports field, where a lot of students have gathered. Our hero also arrives there while feeling very anxious. The healer teases him, asking if he's looking for the prettiest girl in school. That's when someone calls out to him, and our hero sees the beautiful Zhenjun. As he tells her that he's back, Qian also shows up to ruin the sweet reunion. As usual, she starts throwing herself all over him and asking if he just got back. However, our hero sees that Zhenjun is furious and ready to skin the girl alive. He moves to his crush's side and tells the other girl that he came to see her. After that, it is announced that the presentation is about to begin. Beside Lu Zhen, we see Ouyang Zhe, the university chancellor and also a spatial awakener. The protagonist takes note of the old man when he enters the field. The man waves over to him and offers him a seat when he approaches. Lin Qiu tells Zi that it doesn't seem appropriate, considering that a lot of people are watching them. However, the old man tells him that he has gained honor from the university, and he's willing to tutor him when he has free time. With no other choice, the hero takes a seat beside the chancellor and thanks him for the praises. The other freshmen see the hero sitting beside the chancellor and wonder why he gets that much privilege. Even Zhenjun starts to feel a distance grow between them, but she is still very happy for our boy. As the presentations go on, the protagonist starts to get bored of the whole thing. He then accesses the system to awaken his daily skill. Fortunately, he acquires an A-rank lightning skill. He quickly accepts to use it and is glad he didn't get a trash E-rank skill this time. He also gets a chance to fuse it with his Animorph skill, and he quickly accepts it. After that, his Dorabon evolves into Dorelic Bit, leaving the hero quite baffled. The robot starts chanting a script, and the hero wonders if he can use his lightning abilities already. The system confirms it, and he's glad that he doesn't have to do the weird chant before using his ability. He also gets the ability to generate static electricity by rubbing his hands together when he morphs. Considering he's a shameless degenerate, he has confidence in his ability to use this well. He also gets 2 other powerful skills that can deal a lot of damage to a single target, and that's also a long-range attack. Seeing that these are single-target skills, he concludes that he needs to look for a multi-target Pearl skill. With his ability at S rank, our hero feels like a complete badass. The presentation finally comes to an end, and the military service is over. He then sees Zhang San thanking Instructor Ming for helping him lose weight and train hard. The vice principal then approaches and calls him. He tells the hero that the chancellor is waiting in the training room to teach him. As they enter the training room, Lu Zhen tells the hero that the room is not being openly used because classes haven't resumed. The hero then sees the chancellor, who is actively training. In that brief moment, our hero feels like the old man is going to use him as a punching bag. Z then tells Lin Qiu to attack him with everything he's got. However, he feels quite uncomfortable going all out against the old man. With no other choice, he activates his newly acquired form, Doara Elic Bit. The furious lightning buzzes around him as he prepares to attack the chancellor. The old men notice his form as well as his power being stronger than before. The protagonist opens up a portal and appears behind the Chancellor instantly. With his lightning-imbued fists, he punches the old man, who gets staggered by the electricity. After that, the hero retreats through his portal to a safe spot. On the other hand, Z takes note of the impressive abilities of the protagonist. He then tells Lin Q to attack with everything he has, promising not to retaliate in the process. The protagonist is glad that the old man won't fight back, wishing he had said it earlier. With that settled, he charges up an even more powerful lightning attack to strike with. With all his might, the hero unleashes a lightning strike on the Chancellor, making the old man feel overwhelmed. The Chancellor is able to tell that the attack is as strong as the most powerful attack from a peak Silver Awakener. After that, he asks the protagonist if he has anything else in his arsenal. Our hero is already pretty exhausted from the earlier attack. However, he attacks the old man with a barrage of punches, but this is just a distraction. He steps back to use his final attack by using a portal to pluck a strand of the old man's hair. This guy's audacity is insane. Regardless, the Chancellor is disappointed at his petty tricks. Despite the hero being an unruly idiot, Z admits that he has a keen mind. He is pleased by Lin Q's feats and offers to be his master. Without hesitation, our hero quickly accepts him with all the gratitude in his heart. Z then reaches into his pocket to give the hero a gift. He hands Lin Q a gold-rank spatial ability Mana Pearl, which also has a skill in it. The Chancellor then tells him to learn the ability immediately. As our hero absorbs the pearl, the old man feels he will make a good successor as a spatial awakener. After absorbing it, Lin Q manages to break through into silver rank 4 stars. He sets his sights on the test dummy nearby and unleashes his dimension slash on it. As the slash disappears midway, he tells his master that the ability is subpar. However, the test dummy suddenly explodes into tiny pieces, leaving our hero completely shocked. Lin Q realizes that the ability is more powerful and useful than he thought. After that, the Chancellor asks him to explain his spatial abilities. The protagonist starts by explaining the capabilities of his teleportation door. He explains that he's been using the door as a teleportation skill, and he goes further to explain its practical skills when he combines it with his mana skills. The old man then tells him to test out his ability. The protagonist opens the Anywhere door, which now has an increased range of 70 meters. As the portal opens, he sends his dimensional slash into it, and the attack comes out on the other side, destroying the ground. Chancellor Z commends his display of combining his skills. Even Lucian remarks on how impressive the technique is. Lin Q also realizes that he can use the door in combination with his lightning abilities to pursue a target. Xian suddenly enters the room, telling her grandfather that it's time for dinner. Our hero is shocked to see her and asks what she's doing there. He reveals to the Chancellor that he's classmates with her, and she refers to the old man as her grandfather. She then warns the old man not to be deceived because she thinks the hero is just an anamorph awakener. However, the old man lets her know that he's not a fake, and has decided to become the hero's teacher. Feeling afraid of her grandpa, she nervously refers to the protagonist as her uncle. Lin Qiu takes the opportunity to gloat about being Shen Xing's master as well, which leaves the old man baffled. Z then tells him to take care of his granddaughter when classes resume, but she doesn't seem too fond of this. Later on, the old man leaves, saying he'll return to teach the hero when classes resume. As he bids his master farewell, Zhang San approaches him. The protagonist explains that he was called off and wonders why his friend is looking for him. The guy then drags him off, so they can enjoy their remaining 2 days of vacation. They arrive at the number 3 company in the country, known as the Prosperity Group. There, Zhang San waves over to his brother, Zhang Er, who is revealed to be the second son of the owner of the Prosperity Group. He introduces his brother to the protagonist. On the other hand, is shocked to see how his brother has changed so much. Our hero knows exactly how the guy feels because the weight loss is really shocking. Decides to confirm San's identity by asking for their eldest brother's name. San tells him it's Jiaki, and the guy realizes that the slim dude is really his brother. He then tells his brother that the protagonist has been protecting him while they're in school, tells the hero that he can call him brother as well and says that he's heard a lot about him. He then tells them to come inside, but our hero feels suspicious of the guy. As they get into the elevator, Lin Qiu can't help but marvel at how outstanding it looks. They arrive at their floor and walk into what looks like a storage room. San tells the hero that his brother is fond of playing around with different kinds of things. While staring at all the antiques, asks the protagonist what he thinks of them. The hero then uses his appraisal skills on the items and finds out that most of them are fake. He tells the guy that most of his antiques are fake, which shocks him. The guy tells him that he spent a lot of money to buy all those items, and his brother tries to calm him down. Our hero then offers to appraise some items for him. However, doesn't fully trust the hero's judgment. The guy brings out the first item, and the protagonist gives him every single detail of the antique. After describing the bowl, Lin Qiu tells San's brother that the item should cost 25 million at a minimum. Tells him that he spent that exact amount to get the bowl, but Lin Q isn't done with his appraisal. The protagonist then goes ahead to tell him that the fake item he has will be valued at around 100,000. Is crushed when he finds out that he wasted so much money. Lin Q apologizes for Er's hurt feelings and continues to break the poor guy's heart by pointing out all the fake antiques in the room. The guy is fed up and tells the hero to stop. Then he asks our boy to come with him to an auction the next day, and even offers to pay a commission. The next morning, our hero wakes up on his bed with a blank expression on his face. He turns to the system and asks for his skill of the day. The robot gives him a skill known as penetration vision, and he wastes no time to learn the ability immediately. He quickly tests it out and sees that it's basically like having X-ray vision. Jang San walks into the room and the hero quickly sees the guy's skeletal structure. Sadly for him, this is not the skill he thought it would be. Meanwhile, San has no idea why he's acting so strange. The guy hands him a bag and reminds him that they are supposed to go to the auction with his brother. Moments later, at the Treasure Trove Pavilion, Lin Chu and the Jang brothers are seen arriving at the scene. The protagonist notices that the bodyguards there have a lot of mana as well. As they walk into the place, one of the staff members directs them to their seats. When they get into their seats, San tells our hero that the people participating in the auction are wealthy. Lin Chu turns around to see the love of his life, Zhenjun, who wonders what the hero is doing there too. While he admires how beautiful she looks, someone suddenly asks how she knows him. The high school goddess introduces the person who is revealed to be her mother, Wen Shahan. However, our hero sees her as his future mother-in-law. With a mean look, she confirms that Lin Q is the one who defeated her daughter several times. San's brother then waves over to Shihan. He introduces her to his brother and tells the woman that the protagonist is also his brother's schoolmate. The woman then winks at our boy while mentioning how often Zhenjun talks about him. Meanwhile, Zhenjun tries to get her mom to stop teasing her. Our hero, being the Giga Chad he is, tells Shihan how beautiful she is and how he could have mistaken her for Zhenjun's sister. The woman sees how much of a sweet talker our boy is. While Zhenjun tells him to stop blabbing so much, her mother takes note of how much she likes him. Their attention then turns to the person who calls out to the audience. The person is revealed to be Li Zhenyu, the owner of the building. He reminds everyone that once the money and goods are exchanged, the deal is done for good. However, the protagonist sees through his tricks. After that, he starts the auction with the first item that's up for bidding. It's a blossom bowl from the S dynasty. The owner then starts the bid at the price of 2 million, or quickly asks the protagonist if the item is genuine. The hero pauses for a moment, then tells him that the item is real and not worth more than 5 million. The guy quickly bids with the price, while the protagonist hides his face nervously. With no other bidders, Zhenyu congratulates Air on getting the first item. After that, our hero calls out a bronze vessel as a fake item, a black and white painting as genuine, and a different colored painting as a fake too. Moments later, the owner tells the audience about plenty of raw jade stones in the next hall. He believes there's treasure inside the stone and starts the bid for it at 100 million. The audience then moves into the next hall. However, tells the hero that he's not interested in the stone gambling that will come after. Regardless, our hero sees this as the perfect opportunity to use his X-ray abilities. Meanwhile, the son of the owner of Rising Group, Song Gae, walks up to Zhenjun and compliments her beauty. On the other hand, the girl is completely repulsed by his presence. At that moment, our hero steps in and tells Zhenjun how he's been looking for her. What a desperate man. The girl is surprised and wonders if he's trying to help her. Lin Kyo ends up smirking at Song Gae, who gets infuriated. After that, the protagonist walks away with his woman. Later, Gae tells his assistant Wang to find out everything about our hero. The hero and Zhenjun keep on walking till they reach a crowded area. When he feels they're safe there, his crush lets go of his hand. She threatens to cut off his hand if he tries to hold her again, but he lets her know that he is just trying to help. With a shy look, she thanks him for helping her out. As he admires her beauty once again, Zhenjun's mother breaks up the lovebirds, reminding them that there are people still around. She urges them to stop fighting and instead come look at the precious rocks. They walk into the area where there are numerous lovely rocks of different sizes. The protagonist realizes that they are all uncut jadeite stones. The stone gambling became a thing because no one could tell if the stones possessed jade, and it was more difficult to determine their grade. The uncut stones came with high risks but cost very little, while the jadeite stones had a much lower risk but a higher cost. Lin Kyo then sees some guys inspecting the wondrous stone that the owner spoke of earlier. He uses his X-ray vision on the stone and sees that it's only valuable on the outside with no value on the inside. He sees an expert working with the host and figures this is why the stone is up for sale. Suddenly, Song Gae calls out to him. The guy warns our hero to stay away from Zhenjun because he feels Lin Q isn't worthy. The protagonist retaliates by asking if the guy thinks he makes a better match for her. While the guy tries to gloat about his high status, the hero calls out his fake designer clothes. The guy feels insulted when hearing this, but Lin Q swears he can't insult his fellow man. Zhenjun and her mother look towards them as the situation gets heated. Sangha then proposes a wager and says whoever loses has to stay away from the high school goddess. As Zhenjun calls out the guy for attempting something so audacious, the hero also tells him that she is not an object to be sold. However, Sanghae tells him to stop hiding and says whoever loses will have to pay 100 million. However, when the protagonist refuses, the guy calls him a poor loser. Surprisingly, Lin Q says that the bet amount is too small and increases the stakes to 500 million. At the moment, Sanghae becomes conflicted because he knows he'll be humiliated if he backs down. He then asks if the hero has such an amount of money. R then comes in and says he'll pay up the money if the protagonist loses. Still, the desperate guy and his butler see Zhang Er as nothing but a little kid. The guy then accepts the deal and tells the hero not to cry if he loses. Meanwhile, Shihan asks her daughter if she's interested in the hero, but Zhenjun tells her that she's too young. However, her mother doesn't feel the same way. She decides to stop teasing her daughter after the poor girl calls her out for it. Shihan promises not to interfere in her daughter's decision, so long as she is happy. On the other hand, Zhenyu offers to be the witness of the wager. He tells them the 5 tiers of the uncut jadeite stones in the area, the first going from 3,000 to 10,000 and the last tier being at over 10 million. He tells the two sides to choose 10 stones, and the person with the highest value will be the winner. The protagonist and Sangjae's assistant then proceed to choose their stones. As the butler submits his picks, the owner puts on a devious expression. Soon after, the protagonist submits his selection as well. From Jaeyun's perspective, Wang's selection looks much better than the hero's own. He wonders if the protagonist really knows how to play the game, or is depending on luck. He then asks who will go first to cut their stones, and our hero decides to go first. The gem cutter starts to cut the stone and is shocked by his discovery. Lin Q's stone ends up gaining much value once they discover the jade inside. The owner analyzes the excellent texture of it and says its value is worth 10 million. Upon hearing this, the whole crowd can't believe how lucky our boy is. Meanwhile, Sanghae and Wang look quite upset. After that, it's Ji's turn to cut his stone. Wang then tells them to cut it from the middle, which makes the hero laugh at him slightly. When Lin Qiu is confronted, he plays it off by saying that he was remembering a joke. Then the owner proceeds to start cutting the stone. In the process, Lin Qiu admits that he wanted the bigger jadeite stone as well. He is surprised that the butler was able to pick it out after a single glance. After cutting the stone, it's discovered that it's an ice variety yellow jade. Sangha feels they'll be able to win with this, but Wang's expression says otherwise. Even though the quality is equal to the hero's own, the value drops because it was cut right down the middle, and it ends up at a price of 8 milli. With this, the protagonist is announced as the winner of the first round. Zhenzin shows that she's very happy with their lead. Lin Qiu offers to give his crush a present once they're done with the competition. However, she tries to pretend like she doesn't want any presents. As our hero goes back to pick stones, he tells himself to maintain his lead in order to remain discreet. During the second round, both contestants fail at extracting a jade. In the third round, Wang's jade is worth more than the hero's own, so he wins. As the final round closes in, Sanghae still feels like they have a chance to win. However, Wang tells him that the hero has only spent less than 100,000, yet he's leading them by over 1 million. The butler glances at the protagonist and concludes that he has to be an expert. After that, the owner tells them to choose their final stones. Sadly, Wang doesn't feel confident now, and he's not willing to bear such a huge loss. On the other hand, Ji still feels they can overcome their loss and win the wager. He quickly picks out a huge rock from the pile. Janger then calls him out for cheating because of how much the rock is worth. However, Ji reminds him that they're looking at the value of each jade. With this stone, he's very confident of emerging as the winner. Even Zhenjin calls him out for being shameless. But the hero isn't fazed by this. Lin Qiu decides to raise the stakes again, which leaves his opponent confused. However, those in the crowd start gossiping about Ji being too much of a wimp. With no other choice, he accepts raising the stakes. His assistant, on the other hand, has lost all hope. Lin Qiu then picks up a small, cheap stone, leaving the audience bewildered by his decision. The protagonist confirms to the owner that he's sure of his selection. As Zhenyu collects the stone to cut it open, Gay asks for his to be cut first in order to break the hero's spirit. When they split the guy's stone open, it turns out that it has no value on the inside. Ji is too desperate to accept such a loss and tells them to cut it open again. The stone gets cut up some more, but it's still as useless as this guy's senses. After that, the owner tells him that the exterior of the jade will be valued at 15 million. With this, the guy gets a lead of 13 million, and he's confident that the hero's rock won't be that valuable. When it gets to Lin Qiu's turn, he decides to cut open his stone again. Instead, he tells them to scrape the entire stone. Everyone else is shocked by this because it might end up as a huge loss. However, the process begins, and the results are shocking. They discover an imperial green jade within the rock. Janger is happy to see how valuable the stone has become. He commends the hero on how impressive his skills are. Meanwhile, Lin Qiu gloats over Songge, who just lost about 600 million. The owner then offers the protagonist 60 million for his Imperial Jade. However, the people in the crowd go crazy and start bidding with higher prices. Zhenyu goes further by offering 100 million for the jade. He also offers to purchase all the other jade stones that the protagonist acquired. After he collects them, Lin Qiu remains with one more stone. Our hero then looks over to his crush and her mother. Zhenjin sees the protagonist walking over to her with the red jade. She wonders if he's about to propose and what she should say. However, she's definitely not ready for that. In a shocking turn of events, the hero shoves her aside and offers the jade to her mother instead. What a slick guy. Shihan tells him that she's rooting for him, and he thanks her as his mother-in-law. On the other hand, Songge is trying to get his dad to help him out with his outrageous debt. He receives a harsh scolding, but it seems his old man decided to help out the spoiled brat. He transfers the money to Lin Qiu, who confirms that he has received it. After that, our hero bids the guy farewell. After that, he starts to celebrate how rich he has just become. Nevertheless, he still worries that it won't be enough to satisfy the dragon egg. Meanwhile, Zhang Er lets him know that the betting session was really great. Lin Qiu looks over to the kid and tells him that he has a request. As Er tells him to go ahead, the protagonist asks him to use the money to buy some gold rank lightning and spatial element pearls. The guy tells him that spatial pearls will be hard to get, but our hero trusts him to look for them. With that, agrees to keep him in the loop if he finds anything. Later on, they drive to a hotel where the protagonist can rest for the remaining 2 days. He gets into the bed and tells the robot to draw a skill for him. Luckily, he gets an SS rank Animorph skill known as Jade Rabbit. However, the protagonist wonders why he hasn't gotten an E rank skill in the past 3 days. He then asks the robot how he can awaken another Animorph skill, and it tells him that it can be fused with the one he already has. After fusing, he evolves into a dimensional moon rabbit. Lin Qiu commends the system on the good name but asks why the lightning part was left out. After that, he asks the system to show him the skill details. From the description, he sees that different levels of the skill increase his stats by an insane amount. He decides to morph and test it out quickly. As he transforms into his rabbit form, he sees that his overall abilities have increased by a lot. The robot tells him that he can last for a minute in his full moon state, and probably longer if he doesn't go all out. Sadly for him, a minute is way too short. Considering how much a stat boost he gets, he decides that the duration isn't so bad. When Zhang San comes to wake him up, he sees something that horrifies him. He quickly steps out and closes the door, while the hero wonders if he should kill his friend to save his pride. 2 days later, they both see the school filled with students who are returning. A strange girl stops them and demands that they help her with her luggage. However, they pretend like they didn't hear anything. She calls them again, but they just ignore her. The crazy girl is revealed to be Lin Yunshuan, a gold 9-star shadow awakener. Lin Qiu then asks her what she needs. Yunshuan believes the hero and his friend are pretending, just to get her attention. What an idiot. She then acts like she's giving him a chance to carry her luggage, and the hero asks why. While she's confused by this, he goes ahead to ask her if they owe her something, since she's acting so spoiled. The girl starts feeling nervous because she hasn't experienced something like this before. She then asks politely for help, and Lin Qiu decides to help her after seeing she's not so bad. Yunshuan notices that they are freshmen and asks for their names. Zhang San introduces himself and the hero, but he tells her that she should have done so first. The girl is surprised that they don't know her, but she introduces herself. San tells the protagonist that she's the former top beauty of the university. However, the protagonist doesn't think she's prettier than his love, Zhenjun. On the other hand, Yunshuan tries to calm down since she's dealing with new students. When they get to the dormitory, she goes to meet her dorm manager. As they wait, San remarks on how great the girls' dormitory is. Later, on the first day of classes, our hero has his first lecture, which is on mana beasts. Their lecturer for the class is Professor Zhang, who is famous in mana beast studies. While all the students are impressed by him, our hero feels there's no one who can match his knowledge of mana beasts. He suddenly sees a textbook and notices an error in it. As he flips through, he sees a couple more errors and writes them down. While he's doing that, the professor calls him and asks to see what he's writing down. He hands the book to Professor Zhang, who is shocked by the things he wrote. The old man takes a seat and asks for our hero's name. The old man then asks about his correction on the Crimson Jade cat, to which Lin Qiu tells him that the beast has terrible night vision. He explains that the cats are agile at night thanks to their extraordinary hearing. As the professor continues to talk with him, the other students wonder what's going on. Sima Yan reminds the old man that they're still in class. However, the old man tells them to prepare for the next class, while he discusses the issues of the textbook with Lin Qiu. Qian and the other students are impressed by the hero's knowledge. After that, the professor tells them to leave in order not to disturb them. As they step out, it's evident that some students aren't happy about this. The old man tells the protagonist that any mistake they make could potentially kill people in dungeons. After that, they continue their discussion. Later on, in advanced math class, the protagonist sees a free seat beside Genjin. As he walks over, Chen rushes to his side and asks him to sit with her. He tries to tell her he wants to sit with his crush, but the high school goddess pretends not to care. As Chen keeps bugging him, he can sense Genjin's piercing gaze. He tries to play it off after seeing how angry she is, while Chen remains confused. The scene shifts to the training grounds, where the students are about to have their Awakener classes. As the students wonder who will teach them, Lin Chu walks up to Chen to ask why she's bugging him, and she says she needs help with her studies. However, he feels Genjin is going to kill him if this continues. The lecturer for the class comes and is revealed to be Han Juning. As usual, she decides to start the first class with a show and tell session. On the other hand, the protagonist feels he'll become a laughingstock if he reveals his rabbit form to everyone. The professor then calls up Genjin to start first. After she unleashes her ice abilities, Chen goes next by showing her fire skills as well. When the girls are done, the protagonist is called to go next. He asks the instructor if he can skip the part because he feels too embarrassed. However, Juning assures him that no one will laugh at him. He agrees and morphs into his dimensional rabbit form, unleashing a huge wave of deadly aura. When the girls see this, they are all surprised by the hero's form. They all see the hero as an adorable rabbit, wishing to touch his ears. Meanwhile, Lin Chu leaps towards a test dummy and smashes it with his overwhelming strength. As it shatters, the girls fall more in love with our boy. Even Genjin and Qian are captivated by his good looks and his animorph form. Qian thanks her grandfather for finding someone so handsome for her. Juning calls Sima Yan to go next before all the girls lose their minds. As Yan steps forward, he gives the hero an unpleasant stare. He morphs into his eagle form, believing that he looks cooler than the protagonist. However, the girls see his form as pathetic and not even comparable to that of the hero. The guy then glares at Lin Q, who doesn't understand why he's being blamed for Yan's foolishness. Juning then says she'll form special training plans for them. After that, she tells them to start running laps around the field. The students aren't happy about this because they suffered enough during their military training. Sadly for them, the teacher tells them to run 1 infinity times around the field. She tells them that they don't have to run once their fitness level is at gold rank. As they walk off, Yan asks Lin Chu why he isn't joining them to run. The protagonist then asks if the guy is sure that his fitness isn't already at gold rank. Juning then offers to test the hero by herself. Lin Qiu agrees to be tested by her. They shake hands, and he notices how soft and delicate her hands are. He then focuses his strength on his hands, and it makes Juning wonder if he isn't a power awakener. She confirms that he's at the gold rank, leaving Yan quite disappointed. With no other choice, he heads off like a loser to run his laps. The professor then asks the hero if he's heard about the Awakener clash coming up in 2 months. He recalls that Lu Jun had mentioned it to him earlier on, which makes her sad because she wanted to scout him. However, she says there's one more student who can participate in this. When the protagonist asks, she tells him that it's Zhang San. She explains that his skill, which can increase attributes, makes him a very good support. Upon hearing this, the hero asks the teacher to tell him more about the event. On the other hand, she is surprised that he knows nothing, even though the vice principal told him about the event. She explains that each team will comprise 7 members, and there will be one 5 versus 5 team match. Also, each team can have a certain number of substitutes. Despite San's low rank, she says that the support only has to use their skill in the 5 versus 5 matches. Juning also tells the protagonist that San's buff skill lasts for 2 minutes. He feels Capital University will be their equal, but the professor is aiming for second place, making him wonder if their opponent is that strong. She then tells him about Zhang Hu, who's a destruction-type awakener and is at Platinum 3-star rank. She explains that the guy stands at the top of all universities in the country, a true prodigy. Juning tells Lin Qiu that the vice principal picked him so he can learn a lot during the competition. After analyzing his rank, our hero feels his university should be at the peak of the gold rank. As the protagonist braces himself to improve over the 2 months left, the other students come back after running their laps. The professor is sure they have questions, and she explains that improving their fitness will reduce the side effects of absorbing mana pearls. After that, she decides to call it a day. On her way out, she asks the hero and Zhang San to meet her on the field at night. As night falls, they wonder if the professor wants to see them about the Awakener event. A guy known as Chen Long calls out to them and tells them that the seniors use the training facility at night. Yun Xuan sees them and says that they should be studying. However, the protagonist explains that they were called by their teacher. She then confirms that their instructor is Han Juning. Chen Long then introduces himself as a Platinum 1-star Power Awakener and the team leader. The protagonist and San also state their ranks and Awakener types. Long wonders how 2 silver rank Awakeners were able to catch the attention of Juning. The professor shows up and tells him he'll learn when they spar. Upon hearing this, our hero gets depressed, knowing he's about to spar with a gold rank awakener. She excludes Zhang San from the sparring since he's just a support. San then charges up his aura and demonstrates his skills on Yunshuan. When Chong sees this, he quickly accepts the guy into the team. While San is being praised, the hero feels left out. Chong then tells our hero to spar with Dai Biao, who's their weakest member. Biao, who's also an Animorph Awakener, wishes Lin Q the best as they get ready to fight. The protagonist accepts it'll be a tough battle, then quickly transforms into his rabbit form. He lunges forward with a powerful kick as he decides to give it everything he's got. As the attack blows his opponent away, the guy wonders if the hero is really a silver rank awakener. Before he can react, Lin Q strikes him from above, sending him crashing into the ground. This causes a huge explosion, shocking the seniors to see their comrade being pushed back. Biao recovers from the attack and admits that he underestimated Lin Q. On the other hand, the protagonist realizes that the guy's defenses are too strong. The guy then unleashes his Animorph form. His strange and scary form shocks the hero, and even his comrades laugh at how ugly he looks. He charges and lunges forward to attack the hero, and the battle becomes a heated one. Our hero is pushed into a tight spot and needs to use a trump card soon. He quickly jumps back to get some distance and charges a lightning attack. He then shoots out a ball of lightning from his palm. Biao chests the attack with a lot of confidence. However, he is shocked when the lightning manages to paralyze him. Meanwhile, our hero is just getting started and rushes toward his foe to strike with another attack. Just as Biao is about to land a blow, Lin Qiu manages to evade and give some distance between them. He shoots out another lightning bolt, but his opponent dodges it. At that moment, he rushes in again to try and land a physical attack. However, his opponent is getting sick of the back and forth. The guy rolls himself into a cannonball and charges at our hero. Sadly, the protagonist isn't able to dodge in time, so the attack strikes him. He gets the wind knocked out of him and is in a bad spot. A girl nearby, known as Wang Huaigold, notices that the hero has coughed up a lot of blood. Being a healer, she rushes to his side to help him out. However, the professor tells her to stay out because our boy is fine. On the other hand, Lin Qiu admits that he underestimated his opponent as well. He quickly turns around to see that Biao hasn't stopped his attacks, and he barely dodges the next one. With no other choice, our hero unleashes his rabbit skill and goes into his moon lion form. His power increases significantly, including all his stats. The girls can't help but marvel at his cool form. Even though the boost is not as much as he wanted, it's still enough for him. Full of power and confidence, he lunges straight at his foe and lands a powerful punch. Biao gets sent flying through the room and coughs up a lot of blood when he crashes into the wall. At that moment, he admits he lost to someone who's supposedly weaker. The protagonist then extends a helping hand to help him up. He humbly accepts the help and accepts his loss as well. Biao tells the hero that he definitely surpasses the strength of a regular rank 4 Silver Awakener. Huigold then rushes to our hero to make sure that he's alright. The other guy tries to tell her that his injuries are worse, but she would rather treat the protagonist first. As she heals Lin Qiu, he thanks her for the help. Now that everyone knows how strong our boy is, Junning asks if there are any objections. Chong welcomes him to the team and says he's definitely worthy of joining them. However, our hero feels he'll need his full moon form to face a Platinum Awakener. The professor then gives him some mana pearls as a reward. The next day, as the protagonist absorbs the mana pearls, he decides to give the silver rank ones to the dragon egg. The dragon egg humbly accepts for the sake of hatching. After that, he gets a call from San, telling him to get his free supply of gold rank mana pearls. Meanwhile, San is too busy having a good time with the love of his life. He tells the hero that he's spending some time with Minmin, which makes Lin Qiu very jealous. Our boy wishes he could have the same sweet moment with Zhen. Poor guy. Anyway, he leaves his bed and decides to go get the mana pearls. On his way out, a stranger is in the hallway, keeping an eye on him. The guy calls Wang to ask if he should engage, but Wang tells him not to do anything around the university. Meanwhile, our hero meets up with Zhang Er. The guy says he was able to get a lot of gold rank and platinum rank pearls, but the lightning and space-type pearls are proving difficult to find. Lin Qiu accepts the huge box of pearls and can't imagine how hard it must have been to gather so many. As the hero leaves with the pearls, tells him that he'll try his best to find the others. On his way out, he notices the strange people who have been following him since. With a devilish look on his face, he picks up his phone and tells someone to check their messages. He puts on his live location and decides to see what these strange people want from him. As he turns into a corner, the pursuers notify Wang, who gives them the go-ahead. As our hero goes into the alley, he is stopped by some ugly-looking thugs. He pretends to be scared, asking if they're trying to rob him. He tells them that he's broke. The thugs then put a brown bag over his head and carry him off to God knows where. Moments later, the bandits bring him to a strange building. There, Wang tells the thugs to keep watch downstairs and notify him of anything. The bag is pulled off the hero's head, and Wang reveals himself to him. Our hero, looking unfazed, asks the old man and G what they want. The butler tells him that he has no way to escape if he thinks of running away. Songa tells the man that the hero wouldn't run and then offers Lin Q a chance to work with him. Lin Q is surprised when he hears the offer because he thought he was getting kidnapped. Songa then proposes to use the hero's skill with uncut rocks to gamble and split profits evenly. However, the protagonist sees no reason to accept when he can do it all by himself and keep the profits. The spoiled brat then threatens and tells him to accept or face the consequences. The protagonist starts shaking like a wimp when he discovers that Wang is a platinum expert. Meanwhile, Ji tells him that he'll pay back every bit of the money he lost earlier. Our hero tries to remain calm and stalls till Jang San can show up with some help. An explosion suddenly goes off and Zhen crashes into the room. However, our hero doesn't understand why his crush was brought to such a dangerous place. She rushes to his side and he assures her that he's fine. It seems she was quite worried about him, which makes Lin Q blush like a little boy. He then promises not to make her worry like that again. On the other hand, the foolish Gay is jealous, and he tells Wang to deal with the hero. Suddenly, Wang becomes very nervous and unable to move his body. Ji assumes that Lin Q did something, but the protagonist says it wasn't him. Suddenly, Jang San and Chancellor Z show up, making the butler even more scared for his life. Z calls out to the protagonist and sees that our boy is truly a younger version of himself. Meanwhile, our hero and his love are flirting with each other, and he finally asks her to be his girlfriend. While she's about to answer, Ji interrupts the love session by tossing a chair at them. Before the chair lands, Zhen tosses it to the side and kicks the foolish guy. She then tells him to read the room. She and the protagonist get back to it, and she accepts to be his woman. They both share a sweet moment, while Song Gae continues complaining like the pathetic loser he is. After that, Lin Q tells his babe that he'll take care of the remaining idiots. He walks up to Song Gae and tells the guy to have a chat with him. However, the guy tells him that there's nothing for them to talk about, and even prefers to be killed. However, our hero swipes the guy's phone and says all he wants is Song Jae's money. He starts making a call which makes the guy really nervous. His father picks up and gives his useless son 30 seconds to state his reason for calling. Lin Kyo then tells the man to transfer $1 billion to his account, or he'll never see his son again. Ji's father remains quiet for a while. Then Zhen asks her man if he isn't asking for too much. However, he uses his Riz skills to tell her that it's supposed to be the dowry. She reminds him that they're only dating and she hasn't agreed to marriage. The man finally responds by saying that his son is only worth $1 million, and the hero should kill him if the money isn't enough. What a wonderful dad. Lin Kyo then decides to negotiate with the man. He tries to wager 900 million, but the guy's father offers 2 million and not more than that. Suddenly, the chancellor collects the phone and speaks to the guy's father, Song Jian. Jin becomes very nervous when he hears Ouyangze's voice over the phone. The chancellor tells the man that his son kidnapped his apprentice, which is an insult to him. Jin offers to break his son's legs and compensate Z with 20 billion. The chancellor accepts and warns that his group will be destroyed if such a thing happens again. Chancellor Z plans to send all the money to our hero since it means nothing to him. I can't wait to be that rich in life. However, the protagonist makes it clear that he hasn't reached that point in his life yet. He confirms the transfer as soon as he receives it. Meanwhile, Songgae is sulking because his father will never let him hear the end of this. Our hero mocks the guy by tossing him a coin and saying that he'll make a great beggar. Wang tries to tell the hero not to overdo it and burn bridges, but our hero reminds the butler that they didn't consider that before they kidnapped him. He tells the man to be more concerned about his master instead of arguing. Wang then walks away with Songgae, who has lost all hope in life. After that, Chancellor Z offers to teleport the hero back home. Lin Q tells him to wait while he checks his mana pearls. When the old man asks why he didn't keep it in his pocket dimension, the hero explains that the dragon egg would have taken all the pearls. Z is shocked to hear him talk about a dragon egg. He then asks why the hero isn't trying to hatch the egg quickly. The protagonist tells him that the egg will need at least 2 Exalt mana pearls to hatch. Seeing that humanity has a hard time killing Exalt beasts, the Chancellor asks if there's no other way to hatch it. The hero then tells him that infusing mana into the egg will take too much time. Upon hearing this, the old man suggests that he use other sources of energy. The protagonist realizes that this could also work because the egg doesn't necessarily need only mana to hatch. He decides to try out other forms of energy to hatch the egg. When he asks the old man how he can do it, Z tells him to use his lightning ability on the egg. As the hero strikes the egg with lightning, it absorbs all the energy. As they see that it's working, the hero suggests trying something else but isn't sure it'll work. He tells the Chancellor to set up a barrier in case this method fails. He brings out an explosive he got earlier on and sets the timer. After that, he signals to Z that he's ready and snaps his fingers. The spatial barrier surrounds the egg, and as the timer hits 0, a huge explosion goes off in the barrier. As the smoke clears, the egg remains unharmed, and it even gives a devilish expression. Seeing this, the hero thinks of using a nuclear bomb to make it hatch early. However, the Chancellor tells him to put that on hold since they aren't sure if it'll work. After that, the old man reminds him of the Awakener clash that's starting in 2 months. He sees that Lin Chu is on the same page and asks if he's ready to spar. The protagonist gets ready and tells his master to begin. Master and apprentice begin their battle, each using their powerful auras in the fight. The clash is heated, but Chancellor Zhe overwhelms his apprentice. After their fight, the Chancellor tells Lin Q to get some rest as he heads into his room. When our hero gets into the room, he starts absorbing the mana pearls he has. While doing that, Zhen Zhen comes to meet him and tells her man that it's time. He is surprised to see her and runs over to his babe, telling her to call him next time. He then grabs her hand so they can go get something to eat. They both head into the city's crowded streets that night. Feeling nervous about the eyes on them, she tells her man to let go, but he tells her not to mind the people. She reminds herself that they're a couple now. While walking, Qian sees them and calls out to Lin Chu. However, our hero is too lost in his woman's eyes. He then meets with the girl and addresses her as his niece. He introduces Zhen as his wife, but Qian has no plans of respecting her rival. On the other hand, our hero's babe is happy that the girl has no choice but to respect her. She offers they all get something to eat, but the fire girl is fuming like a train. When the protagonist asks why she's so upset, the girls can't believe how dumb he is. Later, under the beautiful moonlight, our hero tells his woman how he has to train for the upcoming Awakener clash. She understands the situation and encourages him to focus on his training. While he worries about losing to the powerful opponents, Zhen tells him not to overdo it. 2 months later, Zhang San asks our hero if he's nervous about the upcoming competition. While Lin Q tells him that they're just substitutes, he feels sad about not being able to reach the gold rank. However, his fitness levels are on par with 3-star gold power awakeners. He also acquired a lot of martial arts skills recently, which are bound to be useful. Thanks to this, his close combat skills have improved well. Both their girlfriends then come over to meet them. While San goes to meet his woman, the protagonist wonders why his girlfriend is there. He runs over to her, and she admits that she misses him already. While he says how she hates crowds, she pulls him in for a kiss and wishes him luck in the championship. After that, Zhen shyly walks away. Meanwhile, our hero promises to do his best. At the entrance gate, Junning tells her students to do their best and not bring shame to the school. With that, the students are ready to take their leave. Moments later, our hero arrives at the airport with his comrades. A reporter walks up to the professor and implies that she wants to lose because she added freshmen to her team. However, Lu Jin tells the guy that he won't be commenting on that. Junning tells Lin Chu to ignore the reporter as well, and he assures her that it doesn't bother him. As the other teams arrive, the reporter tries to get a word from them. Meanwhile, the protagonist wonders why there aren't that many teams. The professor explains that only a few universities made it after an intense competition. According to her, only 8 teams will participate. Upon hearing this, the protagonist is completely bewildered.